tour right now. It's his first batch here, and I have the lovely Teresa to thank for that. She greeted you at the door. She's been organizing these for me, and she called it an Oregon Blitz because I'm here a week every month for 4 months. What the heck am I doing in Oregon, and why? By the time I leave today, I want you to understand why I'm putting so much emphasis on Oregon. I actually think that you guys may be the key to the whole country in terms of fixing our elections. So,
Wow.
I'm pretty excited about it. Now, I've been to a lot of the counties already, and I've been coming to Eastern Oregon, I'm sorry, that's west, right? East and west. I've been coming to Western Oregon since 2021, pretty often. And so I already have teams, I call them, in multiple of these counties. Really good teams, very advanced. They've already done tons of research. They already have put together what we call our evidence binder, where we collect evidence of fraud. And we actually find real fraud in each of these counties, and we organize it into cases. We bring it to the sheriffs, he put cases numbers on it. We're gonna do that same thing here. And we've already started that process actually here in Coos. So that's gonna be what we do. So I've been over here for a while. And then, you know, you have to forgive me, but I really didn't know what I was doing in 2021. Mr. Lindell made a movie about me. Suddenly 12 million people knew who I was. And they were inviting me all over the country to talk about election integrity, which I did know about. But I didn't know about strategy. I was just thinking, gee, if I just show people what's wrong, they'll all jump right in. I had to learn that isn't the way the grassroots works. I had to learn that. You know, when you're a physicist, you know, you would kind of live in the ivory tower a little bit. Physics is actually quite easy. You have controls, you do experiments, you get results, you write a paper, and you kind of go in that cycle. The public is different. The public, you can show them the facts, and that doesn't mean they're going to do anything. So not only do you have to show them the facts, you have to give them a plan, you have to implement it, and there's stuff going on there. So anyway, I've been coming here because I was being invited, and then something really interesting happened. I met with the sheriff up here, and I didn't tell you the name kind of on purpose, but I met with the sheriff up there, and he showed him the evidence in his own county. He's like, why aren't you talking to all the other sheriffs over here? And I said, well, nobody invited me. So he called him. So I've been starting to go over there, east of the Cascades, and holy mackerel, are they on board with this. So this is pretty exciting. I think we're gonna have a statewide movement, and I wanna describe that to you today, and I think it's gonna be nationally important. So I'm so glad to be here. There's this mountain range here that kind of decides the way your state works. Now in preparation, I did a interview with Scott Kesterton. Some of you may know who he is, and that was a really cool interview, about an hour and a half. I also did an interview with Rick Dancer to kind of get the word out. And this morning I was on your program, what was it called? Party Line for a few minutes to kind of get the word out that I was going to be here. And then after I talked to Rick, right around the same time, I wrote this text so that everybody knew what I was coming here to say. I lost Katie already.
She forgot her phone in the other room.
Oh, okay. Because Katie is a good target for me tonight. I mean this in a playful way. She says she thinks everything's good, and so she says I'm here to be convinced. So it's my job to give her the evidence, and hopefully I'll convince her. So let's find out how I do. There you go. Oh, that's not the case. Anyway, I wrote this text. It says, the state of Oregon has about 3 million voting age residents. That includes non-citizens. So Oregon's got about 3 million people here, 18 and older. With me so far? 3 million people. According to the official state records for the 2024 general election, there were over 3 million people listed in the voter rolls. So you've got 3 million people that live here that are 18 and older, but you had 3.1 million listed in the rolls as 18 and older, eligible to vote. With me so far? So you have more people in the rolls than people. And about 2.3 million people voted in the 2024 election. Last week, so you can see what this was, it was about a month ago, Oregon election officials announced that they're going to be removing about 800,000 inactive voters from the rolls. These are people who don't vote because of the Judicial Watch lawsuit. Exactly. So in other words, 3.1 million minus 800,000 people who don't vote With me so far? 3.1 minus 0.8 is 2.3. You had a 100% turnout in 2024.
Right.
You had, okay, that is simple math. Every one of you voted in 2024. Okay, I don't believe that, and I don't think you believe that either. So that's something to think about, right? Now, this is their own numbers. This is not my numbers. This is their numbers. So I'm going to talk a little bit. In other words, every person in Oregon voted in the 2024 general, and I said, okay. Okay, I don't think so. It's already been proven in court, and that's the Judicial Watch lawsuit, that Oregon's voter rolls are out of compliance with state and federal law. I don't have to convince you of that. It's already been proven in court. Your voter rolls are out of compliance because you're not cleaning them up the way you're supposed to be doing and the way you agreed to do it based upon you accepting federal money. So that's already proven, so I don't have to prove that. And that their election systems are out of compliance with state and federal law. That's the DOJ lawsuit. So if the Judicial Watch has sued you about your voter rolls, and in court it was ruled you're out of compliance, and then this federal government has sued you, the Department of Justice, because your election systems are out of compliance. So I don't have to make that argument. That's already been proven in court. So far, are you with me? Yep. The solution is obvious, I say. It's obvious to me. Oregon County should stop using the unconstitutional illegal election rules and systems being imposed upon them by the state. They need to run their own elections locally with their own eyes and their own. That's what I think. And when I walked in here today, I didn't make this bumper sticker. Somebody else did. I love this. Who wrote this? Restore trust, return to precinct voting. Good job. That's exactly what I'm advocating for. Because I think if you run the voter rolls, and you run the polls, and you count the ballots, and you hang over the shoulder and make sure that they did it, and everybody watches, it's hard to cheat that election. Right. And we have integrity and we have trust in our elections then because we're running. But right now, and I'm going to teach you guys tonight what's really happening in your elections. I'll show you. Imagine, okay, here we go. They need to run their own elections locally with their own eyes and hands. They would save large amounts of money, over a factor of 10. We've been doing this all over the country. I can show you, you will save at least a factor of 10 on your elections if you'll run them yourself locally. I can explain lots of reasons why. Well, I'll get there. And you could restore fidelity to your election. Imagine that. A red county could actually have red school boards. So I'm over on the other side of the Cascade Mountains, and I was in Crook County. Nice little small county over there with 10,000 people. And they said, what do you do here, Dr. Frank? Everything's great. We're 4-1 MAGA over here. We have a Trump one here. There's no problem. I said, well, tell me about your school boards. And it was like all 50 people all kind of threw their hands up at the same time. Oh! I said, now explain this to me. You're a 4-1 MAGA conservative county, but your school boards are unanimously flaming left? That doesn't make sense. Okay, how can you be in that situation? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess you're right about that. And so I said, well, let's just look, how did that happen? And then I taught them in their elections, what's happening in their elections, what they need to do to fix it. So as I've been going all over those eastern counties, those eastern counties have been easy territory for me because they're so red that when I show them the fraud, they're mad about it and they want to fix it. But at the same time, they're hard counties for me because they think everything's okay. Well, Trump won here, what are you doing here? We don't think everything must be good here. They don't get it, so I have to kind of go over there and red pill them, wake them up. And then once I show them what's wrong, then I show them what to do. So anyway, that's sort of fun. Instead, I said here, imagine that a red county could actually have red school boards, red sheriffs, and red county officials. The same for blue counties. I don't care if you have blue leadership. If you're a blue county, you ought to have blue leadership. You need representation that matches you. Whatever you are, it should be the same. Okay? And it says government officials and policy could actually reflect the makeup of their communities. Imagine that. I think that's where a country is spot up. But instead, most Oregon counties have been duped into thinking that their elections are safe because they have good local officials. What they don't understand, and what I've been showing them with hard evidence, and that's what I'm going to show you tonight, and this is a great outline for tonight. I'm glad I wrote this. That they are not in control of their elections. Someone else is in control of your elections. Wake up, step up, take back local control of your elections. So that's when I want to show you, sir, come on, brother. Yes, sir.
Trying not to get any.
I'm going to show you that.
Who?
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'll show you. I will show you. I'm not hiding anything. It's just, I got to walk you into it. It's not trivial to just, you'll get it. I put, by the way, on my YouTube channel, I posted a lot of the graphs you're going to see tonight that I'm going to show you are there. So feel free to go there, download them, make screenshots, use them all you like. It's great. I mentioned the fact that I'd come here a couple of years ago. Yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 years. And we had this wonderful debate. It was an awesome 3.5 hour debate. I really enjoyed my time here. All right, let me jump ahead. Let's get in. Now, I'm going to take this off. What I don't want to argue with you about, I mean, we can have the discussion, but I think it's sort of moot. I think it's sort of a waste of time, to be honest. We can argue about the machines. Now, Mr. Lindell, that's his passion. We want to melt them down and make them into prison bars. You know, that's what he says, Mr. Lindell. And I don't have anything against that. I also am not a big fan of the machines, but I don't really think that is productive for us to.
Mike Bill guy?
Yeah, Mike Lindell. He's awesome. But I don't think it's productive for us to argue about that. But just to be clear, I was in the lawsuit in Washington County in Tim Sippel's case. And what that was, and this is still kind of introductory stuff I'm getting you, but I want to tell you what I really don't want to talk about. We can a little bit if you want. So what happened is, in the Tim Sippel case, I was coaching Washington County how to audit their elections. And so they asked for a copy of their voter rolls. Well, the county clerk made a mistake. And she accidentally gave him a complete backup of their entire election system. It's called the EMS. That's the software, that's the ballot images, that's everything. She accidentally gave him a complete copy. And so when the state found out, they panicked. The state of Oregon found out, they panicked. They issued a restraining order against Tim Sippel. And this is what it says in the restraining order. This is not me making this up. This is what your state, Secretary of State, and your Attorney General said. Even when systems are not directly connected to networks, they are vulnerable to attack through physical or wireless access. We are being told back there in 2020 and 2021 that your machines couldn't go online. Well, we know for a fact, and we have recordings, and we can hack into them wirelessly. Okay, but the clerks don't know that's the case. So what was interesting is during the lawsuit, we had that lovely clerk. I have nothing against her. She's a sweet lady. In the witness stand, and we were asking her about her technical ability because she kind of messed up by accidentally giving away all the technical information. And she says, everybody thinks I don't understand my technology. I understand it just fine. She says, I am even teaching by replacement. And she says, and I can turn on the modems myself without a password.
Oh, no.
She said that right in the witness stand. And it was talking about the exact machines, which are the ones that are supposed to be behind the air gap, with no ability to communicate to the real world. And what she was doing is every night she was turning the modems on so that they could communicate with the outside world.
Wow.
By the way, that makes them illegal to be used in federal elections, okay? But nevertheless. So I could argue with you tonight about whether or not the machines are online, but I'd rather not do that because I don't think it really proves anything. Even if we prove they are online, you might say, so what? Okay, so what, they're online. But I will tell you one more story and then I'll stop. And I have to be careful of that just because of names, but I was sitting in your state with a sheriff. And he was in the 2024 election. He was on the ballot. And I was speaking. And by the way, there were 2 witnesses to this conversation. So this is not, if I'm wrong, you guys will tell me, you're lying, Dr. Frank. But they were witnesses, and I was sitting there with the sheriff, and I was showing him how his voter rolls were being manipulated. I'm going to show you that. And he said, yeah, well, Dr. Frank, how are they manipulating the rolls? I don't understand. He says, I know the tabulators are online, but how are they manipulating the rolls? And I paused him there. I said, wait a minute. Most of the time I have to argue with people and prove to them that their tabulators are communicating on networks. I said, but you already know. How do you know, sir? And he said, well, during the 2024 election, I was on the ballot, and I wanted to know how I was doing. So I logged into the county system, and he's a couple of blocks down from the registrar's office. I logged into the county system, and I could see the tallies on every tabulator. And I could see I was way ahead. So I picked up my phone, and I called the county clerk, and I said, and I won't use her name, but I remember it. He says, hey, so-and-so, let's call her Jane. Hey, Jane, thanks for running such a good election. It looks like everything's going really smooth, and it looks like I'm winning by a large margin. And she's like, how do you know? It's the middle of the day on election day. How do you know you're winning? He says, well, I'm looking at the totals right now online. And she's like, no, you can't know the totals online because the machines aren't online. And he goes, yeah, they are. I'm looking at the totals right now. And she's like, no, that can't be right. He says, go ahead, run a couple of ballots. So she runs a couple of ballots through the machine. He goes, yeah, that was, tabulator 3. It just went up 3 ballots. And she's like, what? These machines aren't supposed to be online. So the point I'm making to you right now is that the clerks think the machines aren't online because they didn't connect it to a local network. They didn't connect it to the local hotspot, but they are on networks. They are online. It's been admitted to in court, and I just gave you a real life example from your own state. But anyway, I don't want to argue about that tonight because even if I'm right, so what if they're online? It only matters if bad things happen because of that. So I want to show you the bad things. Then you're going to say, oh, wait a minute. We don't want those bad things anymore. Let's do whatever measures we need to. Do you follow me? Sure. But we could argue about this all night. I just don't think it's worth arguing about it. But if I didn't at least mention it, people would wonder why, because it's been a big issue. But I'm going to take you in a different way. Now, most of you don't know me. God made me this way. I could talk all night. I'm a scientist, so I'm going to try to cram a lot of stuff into a small amount of space. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to what I call red pill you. I want to wake you up, and my favorite way of doing this is to show you your own data. I'm not going to need to make an argument. I'm just going to show you your own data, and that's my idea. I like what Lincoln said. He says, I'm a firm believer in the people. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. The great point is to bring them the real facts. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to show you your own facts, and then I'm trusting you to do something about it. And I'm going to help you too. I'm here to help. I'll be coaching your teams. All right. So before I get too far afield, I should tell you I'm a scientist. I'm a physicist. I have 60 scientific peer-reviewed publications. In 1990, I was nominated for a Nobel Prize in chemistry. I traveled the world for a couple of years lecturing on chemistry. So I'm a real scientist. I'm not just claiming to be. And my articles have been featured on the cover of the leading journals in the world. I was in Cincinnati at the time. I was at the University of Cincinnati Chemistry Department, and I just couldn't handle it. I didn't care for the academic environment, and so I left in 1996. And I'm a pretty conservative guy. The environment was just too woke for me. And if you know Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, he said, when the end of the world comes, he wants to be in Cincinnati. That's where I was. He says, because it's always 10 years behind the times. And so, you know I'm a pretty conservative guy. In other words, if it was already too woke for me, and that's in the 90s. So I'm also a scientist, I'm a Christian, and I travel the country also teaching and often preaching at churches on the relationship of science and faith. And just to give you a taste of that, I'm giving you a flavor of who I am before I walk you in. For example, people always talk about miracles, and to read the Bible as a scientist is pretty fun. So like people think about turning water into wine. People say, oh, big deal, let's move on to the next miracle. Hold on. I say, wait, hold it right there. Water into wine. Water is H2O, 18 grams per mole. Wine is like 14% ethanol. That's C25H5OH. Where did you get the carbon atoms from the oxygen atoms? That's a nuclear reaction. A nuclear reaction. To do that miracle, Jesus needed four Hiroshima bombs worth of energy. That is a big miracle. And people always get tripping out about, oh, Jesus raised somebody from the dead. Nothing to that. Little electricity, you can wake anybody up, okay? But water, so it's fine. We can see where I'm going. I have fun with that. I enjoy talking about science and faith. So that's another one of the things. But the main thing to know about me is that I'm a modeler. Where the heck? Here we go. I'm a modeler. My favorite thing to do is to take lots of data, analyze it, make a model, and make predictions. And if I can predict things, I probably know what's going on. If I fail, my prediction fails, there's something going on I don't understand. That's basically the scientific method. You study, you make a model, you make predictions, you test it with experiment. You keep going through that cycle over and over again. So I model all kinds of things. I model climate, I model population, I model epidemics, I model vaccines. Can you imagine what 2020 was like for me? I have been modeling elections since 1980, epidemics since 1981, vaccines since 2002. What a crazy person I am. And all three of those things all came together big time in 20 and 21. It's crazy. In fact, I predicted every election, every presidential election since 1980, who was going to win. Even Trump in 2016, I predicted 13 months in advance when there were 17 people in the primary, in the Republican primary. And I put all my predictions online. I always put them up ahead of time. What's that?
You're that guy that predicts the presidential race every year.
I like doing that.
Yeah.
My first failure was 2020. And the odds were going to win. And so I was at a loss. I didn't know what happened. I honestly didn't know. But what happened is the state of Pennsylvania called for an audit. Doug Mastriano called for an audit, and I was asked to come in and be on a team of 6 people that did a statewide audit. I got to see anything I wanted to see. It was awesome. I had subpoena power through the legislature. I was part of a team of 6 people. So anyway, when Doug Mastriano asked, it was the end of November, then the next day Kathy Barnett from Montgomery County called me and said, would you please look at my election because something's wrong in my county. So she sent me the data from Montgomery County. By the way, can you get me some water or something? I might have some here, hang on. Let's see if I've got some. Yeah, I'm good, never mind. She called me, she said, something's wrong with my election. So she sent me data, and I analyzed it, and I found all kinds of anomalies. And so she introduced me to the legislature, the Senate and the House side, and I showed them my results, and they liked what they saw. So they put me on the audit team for the state of Pennsylvania, first week of December 2020. So what I did, now that you know I'm a modeler, I downloaded all the data from Montgomery County since 1900. Everybody who ever was registered, everybody who ever voted, I had the whole history. What did I do? I built a model. And then I started looking for deviations from the model. Anything that deviates, I would investigate. Make sense? You understand how we think. So what I discovered, I could tell you stories for days, but I'm gonna get to Oregon, but I need to teach you this idea. So what I discovered in Montgomery County, they have 500,000 people in their voter rolls. 6 weeks before the election in 2020, their voter rolls grew by 50,001. 50,001 people were added to the voter rolls in 1 minute. Every one of those people voted in the election, to the one.
Amazing.
And then 6 weeks later, every one of those people were taken back out of the rolls.
Huh.
That was very suspicious to me. So I called Russ Simon, and I said, I want to talk to the Secretary of State. I want to understand what's going on here. And so he got her on the phone, and I said, why are you removing those people from the voter rolls that just voted? She said, quote, because they moved away, unquote.
Huh.
And that surprised me. I'm glad you went, because I did that too. And I was confused, and honestly, I was kind of caught flat-footed, and I flushed. I didn't know what to say. I said, okay, well, I'll look into it, thank you very much. And I wasn't expecting that answer. So I went back and I started looking up these 50,000 people using the post office records and things. Guess what? They did move away 10 years earlier.
Oh.
So what had happened is somebody had used old copies of the voter rolls, former residents, put them back into the rolls, stuffed ballots for those people. Then the state was using the post office records to automatically clean up the rolls after the election. Follow me? So now the question is, who did that? Who did that? Who's the they in this case? In this case, So what we did is, we had 4 Supreme Court cases from Montgomery County, you might remember that, and I was in 2 of them. So we had a team of IT guys we brought in, and we had them scour the logs, the state logs, to find my 50,000, because that's gonna be a big deal in our lawsuit. And so they found that 50,000, and in this case, we know who logged in and did this. And I'm just gonna tell you, it sounds crazy, it sounded crazy to me too, but I'm just gonna tell you, it was the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I called Russ Diamond and I said, I don't understand. This is 2020. What is the Hillary Clinton campaign doing in your voter rolls in 20, I don't get it. And he said, oh, he knows what that is. He sent me a newspaper article from 2015, how the state of Pennsylvania had hired the Hillary Clinton campaign to write an app so that people could go to football games and rock concerts and college campuses and register to people to vote on their phones or their tablets. And those credentials for that development were still active, which means anybody who had those passwords could log right into the state log voter rolls and make changes to it.
Wow.
And so that was a shock to me, right? I didn't expect that.
Who
And
was
so,
convicted of that crime?
what's that?
Who got convicted of that crime?
That's a great question. So I was presenting it to the committee, and we were getting ready to go to the whole legislature, and I'm going to answer it. The whole legislature, and somebody on the team said, wait a minute, maybe this is happening some other places in Pennsylvania too, which was a surprise. I didn't even think about it because I was focusing on my legal case. We found 32 non-government organizations that were doing this all over the state of Pennsylvania, totaling way over 100,000 total ballots for the state, maybe 250 total. But we were shocked, and we showed it to these guys. They weren't interested in prosecuting anybody. I was shocked. I said, come on, somebody's cheating. Here's the logins. Here's the time. Here's the IP address where they logged in from. Here's how many votes they added. It's like right in front of your face. And he says, no, that's not the way politics works, Dr. Frank. We're going to start holding a series of public hearings beginning in January. We're going to investigate this thoroughly. January? This is the second week in December. You got to decertify your election. You have this huge problem in your election. Nope, that's not the way we do things right here, Dr. Frank. So that made me mad. So I didn't talk to him for about a week. And I went online and I downloaded all of the data from Florida. And I ran my algorithms on it. I found the same things happening in Florida. And then I went into North Carolina and I downloaded all the data from North Carolina. The same things happening there. Ohio. And everywhere I looked, I was finding the same stuff going on. And I flew down to Florida and met with the Secretary of State. I said, you got fraud in your election, and here's how it's happening. And he's like, nope, we're not going to look into that. I was shocked. I met Mr. DeSantis at his office, and met his aides, and showed him they're not interested. I was shocked. I was expecting all I had to do was show them. And to make a long story short, basically all of 2021, I was flying around the country, testifying before legislatures, meeting with them in private, analyzing their data. I could tell you story after story. I thought the way to fix this problem was to show the legislators and the secretaries of states and the AGs what was wrong, show them actual evidence. I thought that's all I had to do. We even would go around hacking into their elections right in front of their faces and change anything. We added Mickey Mouse to the ballot in Ohio and ran a whole bunch of votes for him. Right in front of Frank LaRosa's eyes. Okay, he's the Secretary of State there. You would think if you can do that, that they would say, oh no, we have a problem, fix it. I thought that's all we had to do. So I spent most of 2021 thinking that the way to fix this was with our legislatures, top down, talk to the leaders. I had to learn that was the wrong way to go. That doesn't work.
So what were the other organizations besides Hillary's campaign, or in addition to Hillary's campaign?
Yes, there were 32 NGOs. Today, by the way, we just did another check
Like
last.
who?
I'm going to tell you, and it's now up to 82 that we found that have access. And that all we had to do was FOIA the legislature this year, and they gave us the list of everybody who has access. I'll give you an example. Number one on the list. Now it's a little confusing because it depends if you look the whole statewide or just one county. In Montgomery County, the number one was, of course, the Hillary Clinton campaign because they added that 50,000. But statewide, number one was Catholic Relief Services. Number 2 was Lutheran Relief Services. Number 3 was Rock the Vote. And you can go right down the list. And these are all NGOs, non-government organizations that receive grant money. And most of them have a grant that says something like, we're concerned about the minorities in such and such neighborhood. Give us a grant, we'll go out and get them registered and we'll help them vote, that kind of thing. That's the way those kind of things work. But what's really happening is they're manipulating the election to deliver the ballots. So I think I answered your question. So then, by March of 2021, Mr. Lindell had discovered my work and he made a movie about it called Scientific Proof. It's a 1-hour-long documentary, and suddenly 12 million people knew who I was, and I was traveling the country, and I've been doing that ever since. And I don't charge for any of my work. I thought it was only going to be 6 months, actually. It shows you how naive I was. I thought all I have to do is show everybody and everything will be fixed and I can get back to work. Here I am 5 years later, still pounding the pavement. But I'm excited about Oregon. I'm excited about what we can do here on, and I'll be telling you that in a minute. All right, let's jump right into some evidence here, because I think you guys are, I have a couple of skeptical minds, which I like. So, when I ask people what's wrong with their elections, I get a lot of answers. Sometimes people say, we gotta get rid of those machines. We need photo ID. We need paper ballots. We need in-person voting. We need precinct voting. Everybody's got their own idea about what's wrong. And I'm going to tell you what's wrong. I've been working on this every day of my life for the last 6 years. In every state in America, elections are now centrally controlled by the state. In every state in America. That's what's wrong. They're centrally controlled. If they were locally controlled, nearly everything that I'm about to show you wouldn't be a problem. Now, I'm not saying you can get rid of all fraud, because, dude, if we were running our little election here, somebody could cheat still, right? But at least it's locally, it's contained. The problem right now is your central control. And because of that, we the people, we've lost our constitutional voice. Now, let me show you how this is set up. Did you have a hand in yours just saying, amen, brother?
I was just gonna say that we need an informed public. You know, we need to know the truth of what's really going on. And
I'm gonna show you.
We're not an informed public to keep our republic, if that makes any sense.
No, you're
I'm talking about civics. We need to start teaching civics again to our kids.
We agree. When I was in college back in the 70s, we had a central computer on campus. You know, some of you are old enough to remember that. Remember the second one? And then around campus, we had these terminals. And we called them dumb terminals because they didn't have a hard drive. They didn't have any software. All they did was communicate with the central computer. They didn't do anything. All the software was here. All the memory was here. All the calculations were here in a central computer. So we called these dumb terminals. And now I want to tell you that's the way your elections are being run today. All the clerks are dumb terminals. They don't do anything. Their files aren't local. The software isn't local. The calculations aren't local. Everything is in a central database. Let me give you an example. Let's say you move into Coos County and you want to be in the voter roll. So you go down and talk to the clerk and say, I'd like to be registered to vote here. She doesn't take out a book and add your name to it. She doesn't bring out her own Excel file and add another row and add you to it. She logs into the state central database and she adds you to the same state central database. Let's say my friend Rob Taylor passes away, and so somebody goes in and says, hey, Rob's passed. Time to take him out of the rolls. She doesn't take him out of her rolls. She logs into the state system and removes him from the state system. She's not in control of her rolls. They're somewhere else. Following me? I just came from Alabama, and the people in Alabama, when I meet with the clerks there, they say, it's really frustrating, Dr. Frank. Why is that? Because our voter rolls are in Omaha, Nebraska. And every time we want to work on our rolls, we have to log into Omaha, Nebraska. That's the headquarters of ES&S. And if there's bad weather out there, we can't work on the rolls that day. So that's an exaggeration, but you get the point. The rolls are not local. They're somewhere else. The thing is that the clerks think they're in control of their rolls. And so one of the things I do, and I'm going to prove it to you tonight, you're not in control of your own rolls. I'm going to show you that you're not. But they think they are. They also think that they're doing the counting and tabulation. But when you talk to them, ask them sometime. So how do you run your election? Well, at the end of the day, I take the tapes, I take the thumb drive, And I walk over here and I plug the thumb drive into an election management server, and it connects to the state and reports the results. Did she count anything? Nope. All the tabulation, all the adding up took place out there. She's just a dumb terminal. She's just moving information. She's not doing anything. And what does Stalin say? It's enough that the people know there was an election. The people who cast the votes decide nothing. People who count the votes decide everything. Nobody local is doing any counting. Everything is done somewhere else. That's a problem. You aren't even counting your own votes. So let me just get you.
And then that data comes back to the counties?
Say again?
And then that data comes back to the counties?
Nope. When the county wants information, they log into the state system.
So,
There's nothing local. So
so,
local people are dumb terminals. I'm not insulting their intelligence. I'm just saying there's nothing happening yet.
so it's sent through an actual network, right?
So
So
the state, yes.
is that network at least highly encrypted? I'm wondering what the encryption mechanisms are. 'Cause if
They
they're
are
shitty,
encrypted, yes.
okay, they're actually not crappy. Okay, good.
Yeah, but to your point though, I sit down with a lot of clerks. You can imagine, probably hundreds, dozens a year. And when I sit down with them, one of my favorite questions is, okay, so your election's done. Let's just take 2024, for example. Let's say I was sitting with the Coos County clerk today. And I said, how many people voted in the 2024 election in Coos County? And she would have some printout, and she would say, oh yeah, so and so many people. And do you have a list of those names? Well, no, I don't have a list, but I can get you a list. And so she logs on, she prints out a list. Well, the list has a different number of people in it than the number of votes that she reported. And then I'll say, wait a minute, you don't know who voted in your own election? No, because she didn't keep her own list. The whole time it's being kept centrally. And then I'll say, well, wait a minute, you've got this printout that says how many people voted here, right? Right. Let's just log into the state control system. So I'll go onto the Secretary of State website right in front of her, and I'll look up Coos County. How many people voted? It won't match her sheet of paper either. I've done this all over the country. It never reconciles. And when I do that with the clerk, they're always shocked. How can that be different, Dr. Frank? And I say, well, didn't you check? Nope. Not a single clerk in the country has ever checked that I've spoken to. And the reason is because it's not on their checklist. They do once they've uploaded the data, they assume that it's there. Yes, sir.
So that'd be legal, right?
That would be what?
Illegal? Manipulating elections would be illegal?
It would be illegal.
So
Who's
then
doing it?
a court would have found it, right? Are there court cases that where truth is told that show these kinds of results?
You mean like the conviction last week in Lodi? And Lodi, yes, we have convictions all over the place. Antrim, Michigan, they reversed that election. They reversed Dr. Shiva's case in Massachusetts when it went to court. They showed that the machines were misreporting. So yeah, we have a lot of examples.
You would have expected that to make news, right?
It did.
It does.
Look it up, Antrim, Michigan. Look up Dr. Shiva. Look up Lodi, California. It's just last week. It was all over the news. I was just there, by the way, in San Joaquin, because we helped the sheriff there find the fraud. We caught a guy with 70 ballots on his kitchen table, and he was convicted of election fraud. Okay, and he had amassed those ballots. That's not me. Go ahead, read the court case. It's right
How
there.
did he get 70 ballots on his kitchen table?
What?
How do you get 70 ballots on his kitchen table?
So what he did is he ordered absentee ballots remotely, and then those ballots were mailed somewhere, and then he printed his own copies and completed them on the table and turned them in. City Councilman, Lodi, L-O-D-I,
Yeah.
Lodi, California. All right, let's talk about you guys now. I've introduced everything, now I'm gonna start putting some data into this so you can understand where I'm coming from. And all these graphs that I'm about to show you are on my YouTube channel, so you can download them. You can double check me, you can go into the Secretary of State all you like. So what this is these are data from 1960 to present, 1960 to present. The blue curve, starting at about 1.5 million, a little under 1.5 million. This is how many people are in the state of Oregon who are voting age. And I got those data from the US Census. So how many people are voting age in the state of California, Oregon, California, just came in there. And you notice that it's been climbing, and it's been flat for say 5 years. But basically climbing and then flat. The black curve is every 2 years, I got these data from the Secretary of State website, how many people were officially able to vote in that election. The active voters. And we can argue about it, but for now, take my word for it. If the number of active voters is 70% of the voting age population, that's a clean voter rolls. That's just a good round number around the country. If it's, and so I would say you had clean voter rolls. Good job. The red curve is every 2 years how many people voted. So presidential, midterm, presidential, midterm, presidential, midterm. So more people vote presidential than midterms. So these are data. Everything here is data. I didn't make anything up. I downloaded the census data, and I downloaded from the Secretary of State these data. Now, for example, you'll notice what happened is your voter rolls started growing pretty fast in here. Your population didn't, but your rolls did, but somebody cleaned them up. Okay? And then they got dirty again, and somebody cleaned them up. And then they were kind of being okay, but then something happened right here. 2013, your voter rolls just took off and went right past your population. Okay, those are your own data from your own Secretary of State. Okay, now what happened then? I know what happened, and I'm going to tell you what happened. This is the year that the state said, we're no longer going to let the clerks keep their own copy of the rolls. We're going to do everything centrally, and we're automatically going to start adding people to the rolls who get a driver's license, who register their car, who get welfare, who go to jail. So in other words, they're automatically adding, you touch any government organization, you're automatically put in. The thing is that they're not cleaning at the same rate as they're adding. And so that's why the voter rolls went shot right past the population. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm picking on Oregon, because you're the evil Democrats or something stupid like that. Because Kentucky is the same way, and they're a red state, and they have 105% of their people registered too. So it's not a Democrat-Republican issue. It's about whether the rolls are centrally controlled or not. And Judicial Watch sued Kentucky too, and they won. And Judicial Watch, they've been going around the country.
They're winning all over.
They win all over the place because what's happening is the states, the counties are not cleaning the rolls. They're just pumping them full. And that's why I don't want your state to control your voter rolls. I want your local clerk to control your voter rolls, because they're not going to be automatically adding people. Go ahead, ask your clerk to delete somebody. Watch what she'll tell you. Well, we're not allowed to do that. We have to send them a postcard, and if they don't answer the postcard, we make them inactive, and then they stay on the rolls for 2 more cycles. In other words, there's a slow way to get the people out and a fast way to put them in. That's why your rolls are so full. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm just, isn't it in the Constitution that states run the elections?
Yes.
So you're advising us to change the Constitution of the United States?
No, I'm asking Oregon to run your own elections.
But the state is running the election.
Right.
You're
And
saying
then-
the state runs the voter rolls, the state is running the election,
Yep.
the counties do the counting and
No,
report
the
that
counties
information to
report
the
the
state,
Yeah.
right? Well, they run the tabulators and then
Yeah.
report that information to the state, so the state's doing its constitutional duty.
Yep, except I'll tell you what's complicated. The reason why there was a Judicial Watch lawsuit is because starting in 1993, there was a law passed, federal law called National Voter Registration Act, NVRA. And what happened is the federal government said, gee, we're noticing that the state's voter rolls are getting kind of dirty. So we want the states to keep central rolls so that we can compare state to state and clean them up. And so the state said, that's too expensive and you can't tell us what to do, just like you said. And so the federal government said, okay, we'll give you money. National Voter Registration Act, and some people call it Motor Voter, from 1993. So the thing is the state said, okay, so the states were accepting federal money. But federal money never comes for free, it comes with strings. So the state said, yeah, we'll take the money, but they have to do certain things for taking that money. And it was amplified in 2002, Help America Vote Act. Help America Vote Act is when the federal government said, we want you to switch to electronic counting machines. And the state said, no, they're too expensive and they're not secure. government said, we'll take care of that, we'll pay for your machines, we'll set up a secure network with CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. We'll pay for all that. So then what happened is, if you're not wrong, you're dead on right. The states run their own elections, but it's been grayed because they've been accepting federal money, and in exchange for the federal money, they must comply with the federal law. Follow me? That's why there's this gray area in between. That's why they've been sued, and that's why they're going to lose, because they're accepting the money, but they're not fulfilling.
You are aware that Coos County doesn't have voting machines, right?
What?
The Coos County has
You have
ballots.
tabulators.
Yes.
You have
There's a tabulator, but like the
You don't have
ballots,
ballots.
paper ballots come and,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there,
right.
there's no like
We agree.
machine.
We agree.
Okay.
You're talking about a ballot marking device, BMTs they call them, where, like in Georgia, you walk up to a machine and you do a touch screen. They don't mail ballots to everybody. You do a touch screen, it prints out a ballot, and you walk over and you put that ballot into a tabulator. You're right, you don't have that. You mail ballots. You've been doing that since 1998.
First state that did it.
Yes, I am aware. So, everybody following me so far on what these are? These are just data. Now, if I take that blue line and I move it down next to the registrations, another thing you could say is, you can see that the population didn't grow that much, but your rolls did. Your rolls are growing faster than the population. In fact, 713,000 more. And isn't it interesting that what did your Secretary of State say? They were going to remove 800,000. Isn't that an interesting coincidence, since I did this a year ago? Okay, and I love it when, you make predictions and they are about right. And you notice, I made this graph a year ago, but look, this is the 100% turnout I'm telling you about. Yeah.
You mentioned that they were removing inactive voters, but that could also be residents who just didn't vote, so that wouldn't necessarily be 100% turnout.
The turnout was 2.3.
I understand, but some of the inactive voters are being removed may still be residents who just didn't vote.
So
Or are they only those who have moved away?
inactives mean they did vote.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So
So
but they
if
can
you
still
take
be
out the
residents.
800,000 who didn't vote, you're left only with the people who voted, you got 100% turnout.
What?
Makes sense.
If you're saying that you have 800,000 inactive voters, that means they didn't vote.
Yes, not every, but
So
so
take
there's people who
3.1
didn't vote, but
million.
who might still live here. So.
They didn't vote. And they're inactive, so 3.1 minus 800,000 people who didn't vote means you have 2.3 million who did vote.
So you're
Yes,
saying
but that's not
100% of the
100%
people that voted,
turnout.
voted?
Doesn't make sense, does it?
108%,
Makes
wasn't it?
perfect sense, actually.
I think it was more like 108%.
Yeah, it is, because you notice it should be more, because the 800 is more than my 700. The point is, you have more ballots coming in than makes sense you should have coming in, which is my point. Okay. Good?
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, go ahead.
does your vote counts, there's a gross vote count when you pull in all the ballots from the day, okay? Everybody's early voted,
Yep,
mail voted,
yep.
voted in precincts.
Yep.
Everybody brings the ballots in.
Yep.
And quite a few of those get eliminated in that process.
Okay.
Because the signatures are bad.
I got
or
you.
They weren't registered to vote.
Gotcha.
Or all kinds of things. So, there's some things that just aren't true about some of the numbers. So-
I know what you mean. So, for example, I have a copy of your voter rolls, and I'm about to show you that.
Okay.
And it has a list of every voter in your county and whether they voted or not. And when I add it up for your whole state, I get the 2.3 million. Follow me? There's a name, and there's a ballot recorded for that name that was counted.
Okay.
And I'm about to show you that. Okay, I appreciate that you're thinking, by the way. Now, a lot of times, especially when I'm on the eastern side of the Cascades, they say to me, "Oh, Dr. Frank, everything's good here." So I like showing every county, all 36 of your counties. This is how many people are registered in every county. It's Multnomah, obviously, and you guys are down here in Coos. So it's hard to see the small counties because of the big counties, but I'm showing you the raw data, and I love Katie earlier, she was saying, you can cheat with statistics, so I was like showing you the raw numbers first, so you know I'm not cheating, these are the raw numbers right from the Secretary of State. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna expand them so that they're all on a percent scale, so that you can see the shape of every county. And I want you to see that the rolls used to be random county by county, and they all shot up at the same time. That's the year the state took over central control. Those are your own data from your own Secretary of State. I'm not making anything up. So the clerks think, that's not happening here. Yeah, it is. It's happening everywhere. That's the point.
How much of that is increased access to voter registration? Things like motor voter?
Yes, the state's automatically putting them in.
Being able to register at your post office, at all kinds of places that you weren't able to vote. When I first started voting in '88, there weren't that many places.
It's been very effective.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yes, in fact, it's so effective you have more people in the rolls than you have people. And because you're adding people faster than you're cleaning up. That's the problem. Now, if I can do the same thing with your turnouts. This is the presidential, the federal turnouts in November elections every 2 years. Presidential midterm, presidential midterm, presidential midterm. This is Multnomah, obviously, and all the rest of the counties. And it's hard to see the small ones, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to normalize them all. And you can see that the turnouts were random county by county until recently. They've all tuned up. Every county is voting in sync with every other county. And when I was in the car explaining this to Stephen, who's my roadie, thank you very much, Stephen, I renormalized the data minimum to maximum so that you can see the shape in every county in your state. You can see it used to be a lot more random, now it's a lot more in sync. There are a couple of exceptions, like this yellow curve up here, that's Sherman. They have 1,600 people in their county. And this blue curve here, this is from Gillian, they have about 1,500 people in this county. So you notice that the small counties don't follow the state pattern. That's why you should have precinct voting. Because precincts are small, 1,500 groups, 1,000 people group where you can control it. Hard to cheat in a small county where you only got 1,500 people, everybody knows everybody. So that's a good argument. I just want you to see that. Now I can spend more time on that, but I'd rather not. I would rather teach you this next idea because it deals with her question. I want to teach you an idea known as churn. And this simple way to understand it. Let's say you have 100 people in Coos County, 100 people, and 10 people move away and 10 people move in. So you had 20 people move out, 10 people move out, 10 people move in. How much did your population change? It didn't change total, just the same total amount, but you had 20 changes. So we call that a 20% churn. Your population has changed 20%. You lost 10, you gained 10. We call that churn. Let's say that in Coos County, 10 people moved out and nothing else happened. That would be a 10% churn. Your population has changed 10%. Fine. Let's say that only people moved in and 10% of people moved in. Then you'd have a 10% churn. So it's the amount of change that's happened. So we call that churn. And just for an example, I'm going to take Baker County because it begins with a B. I should have done this for Coos, but it was the first one in the group. I'll show you Coos here in a minute. But let me just show you this one because it's a simple example. So they have about 14,000 people in Baker in their population, their voting age population. And then here's their voter rolls since 1980 every 2 years. And you'll notice, by the way, it looks like they're about 70, maybe 80% of their voting age population. I just call that clean voter rolls. In fact, when their population went down, their rolls went down. That makes sense. I bet you that clerk's on duty. She's working hard. She's keeping track. That's still a pretty big job for her to manage that. And it looks like it was tracking fine until when? When the state took over. That's when the state began automatically adding people to the voter rolls. If they hadn't had a census adjustment here in 2020, this black line would have gone right past the blue line, like in many of the counties. But this gray curve underneath, this shows month by month how many people. Yes, I took the time to download the month by month totals in every county in your state. Remember I showed you that slide at the beginning? I have slides like this for every county on my website, on that YouTube. And it plays in 3 seconds per slide. So you can get to your county and take a picture and you can have your own. Now, this is the number of people who voted in every election. And I'm not gonna focus on that right now. Let's just talk about the rolls, because I wanna talk about the rolls, the registration. This is the same as what happened everywhere else. You notice that the rolls are growing faster than the population. And if I bring the population line down, you got the same problem here, about 3,000 too many people, about 1 in 3, let's say. 1 in 3, 1 in 4 too many people in the voter rolls. So if you were cleaning up the whole state, you'd probably have to take about 28% out of there. Now what I want to do is, I've shown you these, but I want to do something different now. I want to focus on just these last 4 years. Because I have something extra. I have the voter rolls for every one of those years. I have 5 copies of the voter rolls. January of 21, January of 22, January 23, March of 24, January 25. So it's a 4-year span of time, and I have the entire state, 5 copies of the voter rolls. Let me say this in a different way. I know everybody's name and address and voting history in the voter rolls, right there. I have a complete list. 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 So I can compare list to list. And think about the clerk. She doesn't have the ability to do that. All she knows is in real time when she goes into the law, who's in the rolls today. And she doesn't print a copy that day. She's just working on a list that's adding and removing. It's a dynamic, it's a living database, they say. It's just changing all the time. She doesn't take a snapshot and save it. I have snapshots. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna track every name in the rolls. And what I noticed when I did that is, and it looks like a line, but it's not. These are different data points. But people are being removed from the rolls steadily in Baker County. But wait a minute, and I can show you the number of people being removed. You can see it's a little wiggly because it's not a line, but it's pretty close to a line. But wait a minute, if they're removing people, how did their rolls get bigger? They must be adding back more people than they're removing. Do you see that the rolls are churning? They're not just adding a few and removing, they're going up and down a lot. The clerk only sees this total number on top, but what's actually happening is a churn. A bunch of people are being removed, a bunch of people are added. And in Baker County, the churn was 40% in 4 years. Did their population churn 40%? No, their population just changed a few percent a year, normal things, but their rolls churned 40%. Remember when I told you I was sitting down with that sheriff who was talking about the voter rolls, he says, who's doing this? He says, I know the machines are online, but how are they doing this in the rolls, right? That was that story. He says his churn, he knows his churn. They add 2 or 3% a year in their county. He gets the list of all the new residents. He says, this can't be right, Dr. Frank. So what happens is when I show this to clerks, they don't believe it either. They don't believe it because they don't know. Because they don't have snapshots of the rolls that they compare every name in every list. They only see the total. So I sit down with them and I give them the list. Here are the people that were added, here are the people removed. It's large numbers. They're not adding them, they're not removing them, the state is. In the background, it's out of their control. They don't even see it happening. And I've quantified that for every county, including yours. And I'm about to show you that.
So the state is hacking the elections?
The state doesn't do anything, right? Governments don't do anything. They
You
pay
said
other
the
people
state
to
is
do it.
adding and removing.
They pay somebody else to do it. They pay ERIC, Election Registration Information Center. They give the rolls to this outside NGO called ERIC. ERIC does something to it and gives it back to the state.
Right,
And
Eric is to prevent people from registering in 2 states at the same time.
that's its intent.
So Eric is to prevent voters from being on multiple states.
That's its
Like,
intent.
that's that automatic removal that you're asking for, that we don't have too many people on the rolls. If you move from Oregon to Colorado, then Eric would say, oh, Oregon, you need to remove this guy, he's now in Colorado.
We agree.
But for some reason, a bunch of Republican states are pulling out of Eric.
12 did last year.
Yeah, so that means those 12 are no longer removing the bloated rolls while the others are.
So what if I told you that the Eric states are the dirtiest voter rolls in the country?
I'm telling you, you're full of shit.
Like, how is that a dirty or clean? The states have the people and are just saying, Eric, this is what we have.
So what you just said to me is the intent and the sales pitch of Eric. But I'm gonna show you that Eric is failing miserably. I have tens of thousands of people in your voter rolls in Oregon that are also in the voter rolls in California, that are also in the voter rolls of other Eric states. Your state, Eric is claiming to do what you said. I don't disagree with you. It claims to do this, but who checks that it is? Me, and I am showing you that right now. And I can do this all around the country. I have voter rolls for every state in the country, and I've been doing this now for 5 years. We've been doing our own Eric.
If what you're saying is true,
Yes.
then people should be going to jail. But no court is taking you seriously. No evidentiary fact finder has been able to prove what you're saying.
I'm gonna give you a copy of the voter rolls.
Statisticians from different newspapers, statisticians from different schools have looked over your data and
No, they haven't. Nobody's ever seen this.
and have said that none of this makes sense within 5 minutes of looking at it.
Nobody has even looked at this. I'm showing you
Okay,
this for the first time
You've been doing
ever.
this for 6 years now, though.
This is
And,
good.
and in 6 years, you haven't brought a single court case that has amounted to anything. Why? Why
When
can't
you
you bring
say
a court case that
in
matters?
Washington County, we proved that your machines are online. What do you mean it didn't amount to anything?
You haven't changed anything with your 6 years of running around the country, except for one county in California where things have gotten really messed up.
And next month in San Joaquin County, and in Huntington Beach, Southern California.
you wanna
and in
mess
20
up
counties
other
in
elections?
And in 20 counties in Wisconsin, and in a third of Maine, and in multiple counties in.
But none of your court cases where fact is found have come through. Like, you can convince 3 commissioners that something's happening and mess up the elections in a county. But what court case has come through for you?
I don't like court cases, I don't go to court cases, because court cases.
Deal in truth.
What?
Well, how does it
Deal in
mess it up?
truth.
Well, the court case in Judicial
I
Watch
don't understand
proved you
what
were out
messes
of
it up,
compliance with federal law.
Well, how does it mess it
What
up
do you
to try
want?
to expose
We
it?
just proved it in court.
Judicial Watch has
In
a
court.
very poor record. Very, very poor record.
No, they've won almost every one of their cases doing this. But, okay, but look, even if they did have a poor record, you lost in Oregon. It was proven in court, your rolls are out of compliance with federal law. Supposedly, where Eric is supposedly cleaning your rolls. It was proven you
Because
have filthy
the
rolls.
DMV
And because of that, your own Secretary of State has admitted they have to remove 800,000. How about that for proof?
It was
In court.
a DMV made a mistake. It was a mistake. They shouldn't have done it. Those people were removed. It was fewer people than would have changed an election.
Well, that's a whole other.
And that's the problem, though.
Look,
You're
look,
right,
you
that
can't
was,
change-
that was
you
a
can't
court
change the
case that they
You
won.
asked for a court case, I gave you a court case.
I
You have to
give
see
you, I
that.
give you that court case, but it
Okay,
didn't
well, you said
change
they
the
were not.
election. Well, aren't you saying that there's enough people being added and removed from the rolls that elections are being manipulated?
100%, I'm about to show you.
Okay,
Listen,
so, but
I'll
that
show you.
court case didn't prove an election was
Listen and I'll show
manipulated.
you. I'm gonna give you this, you can check it yourself.
I'm listening, I'm sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
No, I actually like it, but I want you to listen to this. I'm gonna give this to you and you can check it yourself, and you can decide for yourself. You don't need a court case to tell you what I'm about to show you. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of the voter rolls. I have them for your county. I know everybody in January 21, you had 21,882 people in the rolls.
Can
A
we
year
actually
later,
get
you had
these?
23,264 in the rolls. A year later, you had 22,628. Whoops, I hit a button, sorry. I hit a button, I was pointing with the pointer. Here you go. So in other words, I know how many were in each copy of the rolls, and I know how many people were removed and how many were added each time. This time, there was a glitch in my software, but I can show you, no, it wasn't, Coos County was missing data for this. So actually, these 2 copies, nothing changed. Coos didn't update its records with the state. So unlike other counties, I have this, I don't have it for Coos, but I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 complete unique copies. These 2 from the state were identical. So here, notice from January 23 to 24, I can show you who was removed, who was added, who was removed, who was added. So I can show you those names. Your clerk did not add and remove those. They added a small number, about 20 times less than that. So The churn in your county is almost 50%.
Wow.
Your rolls, did your population churn 50%?
No.
No. Your population went down 2.4%, but your voter rolls churned 50% in 4 years. Now, I'll give you those lists, and you can check me out, see if I'm wrong. And what happens, the clerks don't believe it either. They don't even know this is happening. So I give them their own rolls back, and they compare them. Yeah, that is the most current one, Dr. Frank, that's correct, but wait a minute, all this change is going on. And I got my rolls right from the Secretary of State. So all of that churning is going on outside of their control. And yet, their voter rolls are still dirty, as proven in court. That's where I'm going. Now, the other thing is I know everybody who voted in 2020, in November of 2020. I know, and they're listed in here. And they've been steadily being removed. You can say 1 in 6, 1 in 5, somewhere in between there. 19% of the people who were in Coos County and voted in Coos County in November of 2020 no longer are here. You've lost 1 in 5 of your population who voted. Does that match your instincts about Coos County? Did you lose 1 in 5 of your people who voted? Did your voter rolls churn 50%? Did your population churn 50%? Yeah.
But the registration changes when you move. Like if I move
Yeah.
in from North Bend to Coos Bay.
Yeah, are they both in
back-
Coos County?
Back, yeah, it's all.
Then
know,
it wouldn't be added and removed. It would stay.
So,
This is only in or out of Coos County rolls.
so coming in and then not being there and then coming back.
I find a few of those. There aren't a lot of those. People don't often move out and right back again within 4 years. It does happen, and there's some.
But a lot of
But
people
it's not the
move
majority.
within the county a lot.
Right. And I have a way of doing this. What I do, and I'm gonna give this to you as well, is I take the most recent copy of the rolls, and I add back in everybody who was removed. So say, call this 60, so 6250, 6550, it's about 4,500 more, so that, I'd call that about 70,000. So I'm gonna give you another copy, which I call the merged copy, which includes everybody who's ever been in your rolls for the last 4 years too. I sort them by address, sort them by precinct, and I give them to you. You're gonna be able to see the history at every address. And what you're gonna notice, when you look at your own address, you're gonna go, wait a minute, who are these people signed up at my address?
Yeah.
Some of you get mail at your address. Some of you get somebody else's ballot mailed to your address. Does that happen? Happens a lot. This is what's going on. The rolls are so dirty, and it's about, let's call it 1 in 3, it's pretty close, or 1 in 4. Let's call it 1 in 4, I'll be conservative. So for every 4 ballots you mail out, 3 of them go to somebody who should get one, but 1 goes somewhere. Why is that ballot going out? It shouldn't be going out. If you think about it, you're basically flooding the pavement with ballots that people can scrape up and cheat with. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Not to mention the fact that you're paying in your state about $50 a ballot, not for the printing, but also for the mailing and processing. So every election, think about it, you could save 25, how many people in your rolls? 60,000, so say 15,000 times $50 you could save every election. That's a lot of money.
So I noticed that you have the 18.7% for the missing voters.
Yeah.
What is the percentage for the added voters?
Right here, we could say added, let's do a back of the envelope. So 85, so 12, 8, 13, let's call it 13,000. So it should be about 25%, somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay, so then, are we missing 18.7 votes, or are we gonna account for the people who have been added?
There are other people that have been removed who didn't vote. That's the difference I think you just noticed. I think you were trying to add up to 49. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'm willing to take your missing voters at face value, okay?
Yeah.
But shouldn't you be recognizing the added voters as well?
I am, right here. Boom, 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 I got a whole list
Okay,
of them.
but so where's the percentage on the site?
I'm showing you how many of them changed status. 17% went from active to inactive. I was showing you how many were added and removed. I could add that row, I'm not hiding nothing.
Yeah, because.
You can calculate it, it's not hard.
The 18% is shock and awe until you consider that that's gonna be put up against the number of people who've been added to the rolls, and then the numbers are a lot closer.
So your population is shrinking. Your population is shrinking. Your rolls are growing, and yet you're removing voters.
Ah,
That's what I'm trying to show you with this table. But I'm gonna give you all the data. You can do all the calculations you want with it. And all you have to do is ask, and I'll give you an FTP link, and you can download the data, and you can have it for yourself. You can add up anything you want. I'm not trying to make any point. I'm showing you that people who voted are being removed. And when you show 20% are being removed, that should stun you. Well, how many, did we lose 1 in 5 of our voters? I don't,
Well, if you just said that one in 5 of the people on the voter rolls shouldn't be there, then what that's telling me is that Coos County is doing their job.
the people who shouldn't be there don't usually vote. I know what you need to see. Let me go there. You're gonna like this, I think. Let me show you this one. Here we go. I've got a graphic for this. Oh, where is it? All right, I'm gonna close this. Hang on. Somehow didn't make it into my presentation. I know exactly what I need to show you. I know what you need to see. Okay, hang on. I like your questions. I like it that you're pushing back. Let me fix that. Here we go. Straight to churn. I've got this. Okay, here we go. All right, so you guys remember this illustration I gave with 100 people, 10 people move out, 10 people move in, remember that? And remember I also said that if you have an 18 and older population, voting age population, that you should have about 70%, that's a clean voter rolls. So go with my
Where's that
example
number
here for a minute.
from? Where do you get 70% from?
So I've analyzed every voter rolls down to the precinct level across the whole country.
Okay.
And historically also, that's about right.
So if more than 3 in 10 people vote, then it's fraudulent?
I didn't say that.
What, what is, like, what are you saying?
I'm saying,
I don't mean
I'll
to
show
put
you.
words in your
I'm
mouth.
answering her churn question. So this would be a clean voter rolls. And in other words, 30% of your people are typically not in the voter rolls. That's typically clean voter rolls. Now what happens over time, people die, people move away. It's normal to have a small churn in your population. You're gonna have some people dying, you're gonna have people moving in and out. But what's happened in your state is you've inflated your voter rolls all the way up to 100 plus. And what's happening is not your real voters that are churning. It's all the ones that the state are adding and removing. That's where the churn is happening. So it's like you constantly have a new source of names of, they're not the real residents. They got put in for some reason. And then they need to be taken out for some reason. There's this churning going on up above. And I know that because I've got the rolls. I can show you who's being added and removed. And it's not your normal, regular people that live here. There's a churn happening on top. That's what that's what I'm trying to help you with.
Yeah, no, it's not about the churn. I just think it's not entirely transparent to put that 18.7% up there without putting up the number of people that were added. That's all.
I wasn't hiding it. I have put the numbers right there.
That's fine.
Who are added.
There's a way people
So-
can get those statistics, right?
They're right there. I put them in the table.
Then do your homework, people.
Well, so you got, it just shows, like you said, they took almost 1 million people, 800,000 people, and took them out because they were fraudulent to begin with.
Fraudulent, I would not say.
Well, I would say.
I would say they got put in by some automatic system and they're not real voters. They're
But
not-
they used it,
What's that?
but they've used it.
But and a lot of them, see, here's the thing. Let's say an illegal alien comes into your state, a non-citizen comes in. I'm not saying they're illegal. A non-citizen comes in and they get a driver's license. That's great, we want them to, right? they're put in the rolls automatically.
Yeah,
Guess what? When they go into the rolls, they're an active voter.
right,
They get mailed a ballot.
yeah.
They weren't supposed to be mailed a ballot. Okay, now when the state comes back and says, oops, we made a mistake, remember the state admitted they made a mistake,
Yeah.
did a whole bunch, then they take them back out.
Right, when
Okay.
they're caught.
And that's a churn. I wouldn't call that being caught. Nobody did anything wrong. It was a glitch. They automatically added people they shouldn't have put in, and I wouldn't call that fraud.
But they put in a ballot.
Well, okay, now wait a minute. I didn't say that that non-citizen put in a ballot. If the non-citizen put in a ballot, that's not fraud, that's illegal. They're not entitled. They're not legally entitled to
No,
vote.
okay.
Fraud would be as if I put in a ballot using your name.
Non-citizen comes in, they get their driver's license, they get a ballot. Did I?
A non-citizen gets a driver's license, they get put in the voter rolls, a ballot gets mailed to them, yes.
Correct, okay.
That's not fraud, that's a stupid system.
Oh, it's,
If they voted with that ballot, that's illegal.
so it's in.
If somebody else takes that ballot and casts it in their name, that's fraud.
Thank you. My point being.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's look at Josephine. Did I show Josephine already?
No.
Did I say Josephine? I meant to say Coos. Did I show you your own county?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry.
You showed the numbers.
How come I'm confused here? Something's wrong with my. I showed the table. Where is it? I just was doing it, right? I was showing you guys these. Yeah, here you go. All right. Should F5. That's Curry, where I just was yesterday. Coos, there you are. So here's your county. Since 1980, your population's been basically flat, but dropping off in the last few years.
Yep.
Okay? So let's just say it's flat. Close for a first approximation. Look at your voter rolls are about 70% for years. Clean voter rolls.
Yep.
What I'm saying is that the clerk is monitoring who's coming in and coming out. So she's keeping them clean. Oh, Rob, we love him, he passed away, she takes him out, okay? Rob moves in town, she adds him. Your clerk is in charge. But when the state took over, the state started automatically putting in names around the clerk's screening and making it harder for her to remove them. They're saying, no, you can't remove somebody unless you fill out this form, and then we have to first make them inactive, and in other words, they're slowing down the cleaning up, and they're speeding up the adding in, and so you end up with more people in the rolls than you should have. And a lot of them are active. Let's say, I love Rob, so I'm picking on him. So let's say that Rob moves out and goes to Texas. Well, and he doesn't tell the clerk. Well, he's still an active voter.
Yep.
A ballot's gonna be mailed to you. And if you miss the next 2 elections, you're still getting mailed ballots every one of those elections.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, after you misses 2, they're supposed to send him a postcard. And if the postcard says, and it doesn't come back because he doesn't live there anymore, they don't take him out. They then make him inactive. So it's like, you can be in there for quite some time. And since we have the voter rolls, we're showing that actually people that have been dead for like decades are still in there.
Exactly.
People that don't live here and haven't lived here for decades are still in there and active. We found in Polk County, one of my favorites, 6 students that were registered to vote at the university in their dorm, and they're still active in the voter rolls 20 years later. Ballots are being mailed to the dorm room.
How many people have voted off of those ballots?
Those 6, none. That just shows that the voter rolls are dirty and out of compliance. That proves the voter rolls are dirty and out of compliance. Now that question is perfect.
Yeah.
Because what I do is I give people copies of the voter rolls, and we find people who don't live here anymore, haven't lived here anymore, or are dead, but a ballot is being received using their name. Those are the fraud cases that we
Yeah.
collect.
Right.
Those, and we find those, and we do so with these tools I give people. I'm not just giving them statistics, I give them the actual rolls, and I have all kinds of algorithms I run to help you narrow down. Wait a minute, how come there are 7 different last names at this one address? Let's go check that out. And we find who all voted. Voted. They have to vote for it to be fraud. If they didn't vote, it's just dirty vote rolls. Yes. So in your
That's not an
So
entirely
your
bad
dirty
thing.
voter
So
rolls,
people
your
turn that
dirt
in.
would be in that 30% inactive.
yes,
Thank
well, but a lot of them are active. That 30%, they're active because they were added automatically. So they're active,
But they didn't vote.
but they didn't vote.
Yeah.
But when they're put in, they're active.
Yeah.
And they're active for 2 election cycles.
So your top number is the active voters, your 70% is the ones that actually voted.
Those are the real people in your county.
Thank you.
And the other's churning.
Yeah,
And those numbers are churning because those are the people that didn't
Yeah.
even, they don't even know they're in the rolls.
Right.
Most of them.
Right.
They're just getting put in automatically.
yeah.
So
Makes sense.
why do they justify such an incompetent system? Why can't we just go back to what worked?
Really good question.
Well, I didn't explain why,
Okay.
because I'm not in their head.
Sounds,
But I have my own hypothesis why. But you notice what I'm trying to do right now is not reasons.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show you evidence. And I'm giving you clear, hard numbers, evidence. Yes.
So one thing we noticed in talking with a lot of people is, and I don't know if this shows up in any of your statistics, is that people have been changed. They will be registered independent or
I know what you're gonna say.
Republican, and then
Keep
they
going.
get-
It's
they
epidemic.
They get re-registered as non-affiliated or independent.
NAS.
All kinds
Yeah.
of changes. And the problem with that for them is then they don't get to vote
In the primary.
Right, right.
That's very important. I've talked to so many people about that. And I
I
do
hear that all the
believe
time.
that has to do with the incompetence. I don't want to say it's done purposefully.
Right, that's what I
But it
read.
does seem like
It's,
to be major
it's not incidental,
incompetence.
it's ubiquitous.
So what happens is, let's say you go in and renew your driver's license. And when you do that, you're automatically re-added to the voter rolls. Then the problem is they go in and say, wait a minute, he was already in the voter rolls. So they take the old one out and leave the new one in, but the new one was the non-affiliated voter, because you didn't say when you got your driver's license renewed that you were a Republican. That's why that's happening.
I see.
Oh,
I
so
see.
that would be pervasive.
It is, we find it all over the place.
Yeah.
And so a third of your voter rolls approximately are NAPs, non-affiliated voters. Those are people who didn't choose their party. They were put in there automatically by some means. Most people who register say, I'm independent, or I'm a Republican, or I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Green, and I think you got like 12 parties or something like that. And people will say what their party is when they register. Who puts in NAP? Almost nobody. That's almost always the automatic registration that they're put in as NAP. I was in a county over in, I always forget what it's in Morrow, right over the,
Maybe you would go,
yeah, Morrow and Umatilla. I was over there, and we were having dinner afterwards with the chair of the Republican Party, and she said, Dr. Frank, we can't get those NAPs engaged. Do you have advice for me? We send them letters, we call them up, we go knock on doors, we just can't get the NAPs engaged, and that's a third of our voter rolls. And I said, did you just hear my talk? Did you just hear my talk? The NAVs are not, they're not your real residents. They're the ones that are churning in and out of your rolls, do this automatic adding and subtracting stuff. You need, focus on your 70. Those are your real voters. You know, if you want to turn out the Republicans, knock on the Republican doors. If you want to turn out the Democrats, knock on the Democrat doors. But if you're wasting your time after the NAVs, as they discovered after 2 years of trying to get the NAVs engaged, they can't even get them to answer a postcard. You know what? They may not even be there anymore. All right. Notice that you have the same problem in Coos as the whole state has. If I bring the population line down next to the registration line, it's growing ridiculously fast compared to the population. And guess what? You also must have had a 100% turnout of your voters. Now, I want you to notice something. When they report the results when they go back, when they report the results, the election results, and you look them up in the newspaper, how do they report them? Do they say the total was 110 to 100? No. They say the turnout was X percent of registered voters.
Yeah.
That's what they report. And then they say, and John Smith beat Mary Jones by 3%. They don't give you the raw numbers. They tell you the percents. But if you think about it, you guys here in Coos County used to have really high turnouts. You guys were 80% turnout of registered voters. Great, patriotic people. Now, you're like 70% of it. You have lower turnouts than you used to have. No, you have higher turnouts than you used to have. If you look at the numbers, the raw numbers, when they say you had 70% of registered voters, but registered voters is inflated. When you hear percent, you need to think percent of what? You have more people voting than you've ever had. Even though your population hasn't changed much, boy, you really increased your voting. Way to go. See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to look at Coos County, you have about 13,500 more people in your rolls than is justified by the population chart. Let's say 4 out of 10 don't belong there. Okay? Now, I just want to show you one more thing, and then let me tell you how to fix this problem, and what I'm planning to do in the state. So after the 2020 election, I didn't know what was going on. So I just started graphing all kinds of data and looking at it. And here's an example of what I did. This is Coos County from the 2020 election. I just printed the graph out, so ignore that date, because I did it back a while back. This is age across the bottom, from 0 to 110 years of age. What I did is I went on the census and I looked up how many people there were of every age in Coos County. That looks to me like you're an older community. And so in 2020, your most common age was about 65. And that was 5 years ago. So your probably most common age now is probably 70, because that blue peak moves to the right in your population. Although it's also getting smaller because God cleans the voter rolls. So people pass away. so this blue curve is your population. The black curve is who is an active voter in Coos County. And the gray curve is if you include the inactives. So you've got 100% of your population registered if you include the inactives. And 90%, 91% of your population registered if you only look at the actives. But you'll notice you've got everybody registered above 70 years old. Everybody, right? You've got your entire population registered. So that's the top three. Now the red curve is how many people voted of each age in your county. And if you look at the red curve, if you look at the black curve, I just want you to notice something about those two curves. They look a lot alike. Who votes and who's registered by age track. Now, if I make an assumption that the ratio between the black curve and the red curve is the same in every county in Oregon, if I assume that by age every county votes in the same proportion, I predict this light blue curve for your county. And the correlation coefficient is 0.998. In other words, I can tell you how many people are going to vote by age in your county. In every county. Just for fun, I did the other ones. Here's Curry, 0.996. I'm predicting that. Or how about, I've done every one. I just didn't want you to think I was cherry picking. Or Lane, 0.999. I'm able to predict how every county in your state votes to ridiculous accuracy. This is why Mr. Lindell made a movie about me, because I learned something. All I had to do was go into any state in America, any state, look at one county, make this graph, and I could predict every other county in that state. Because the ratio is identical in every county in that state. But if I take that ratio and go to the next state over, it doesn't work. I have to look at one county in a state and I can predict all the others. And it's how I proved, before I knew how, that every state was centrally controlled.
Huh.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because all I had to do was look at one county and I could predict all the others.
Yeah.
But it didn't work to predict the next state over. I had to look at one county there and then I could predict all the others. And so that's how I proved. I know these elections are centrally controlled and I can predict them to ridiculous accuracy, preposterous accuracy. So something had to be central. So before I went to go to the solution, I wanted to make this point with you. The rolls are not under your control. The state is centrally controlling them. Your election reporting, your election tallying is not under your control, and I just proved to you that the tallying is also centrally manipulated because it's the same in every county. It doesn't matter, you can be a big county, small county, rural county, urban county, green county, Hairbun county, I don't care. They're all the same. They all vote in the exact same relative proportion. There's something wrong with that. So, if they're centrally controlled, that's what I want to change. I want to change away from having somebody else control your elections. I want you to be in control of your elections. Once you're controlling who's on the voter rolls, once you're running your own polls, then you can trust your elections again, because you know everything is under your eyes, under your hands. If you don't like the count it again. Right now you can't, because it's locked up and sent off somewhere else, and you have to get a court order to get access to it. It should be in your hands. Remember the glass clear bowl of Lady Liberty? You should have everything transparent. Now, in Shasta County, Northern California, we've just accomplished something amazing, and I want to show that to you. You're gonna, when you see this, it's so impressive.
That'll be part of the mythical state of Jefferson, Virginia.
So Shasta County, they're all mail-out ballots as well, same as you. Over here on the right is where they do all the signature verification. They have 75,000 population there, and they have tabulators, 6 tabulators. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're clear ballot, same as you guys. No, they're not. They're hard intercivic. What they've done is, if you had come into this room a year ago, there was a fence right here with spikes on the top. No citizen, I'm not kidding. Kathy Darling Allen spent $40,000 since the county ROV, $40,000 putting in a fence to keep everybody out. I'm not kidding. Keeping everybody out. When Clint Curtis got in there, he took out that fence. There used to be a wall here. This is not a wall. These are just stands holding up stuff. You can stick your arm through. It's open all the way around here. There are benches. See the benches?
Yeah.
Anybody in the county is welcome to come in and sit and watch every part of the counting. This is a picture from above one of the tabulators.
Wow.
50 ballots are each turned over one at a time. Then the ballots are put through the tabulator. Then the 50 ballots are shown both sides again. This is streamed and recorded. Everybody at home can watch every aspect of the counting.
Wow.
Everybody at home can keep their own tally with and do their own count if they wish. Yes.
So
I like that.
those ballots are only countable that night. What's out on the website that you can go look at in no way, shape, or form matches any of the numbers that were sent to the state. That much I know. Also, the fence was put up by the stairway in order to keep people who started an insurrection in 2022 and did not leave the voting workers alone to finish the job. That's what was going on. It was a safety issue.
So they just ran their election in 2024 this way, and they had no problems, and everybody was welcome.
Oh, they had absolute problems. They have their votes didn't balance, and it was Clint's numbers that didn't balance. There were things in there that weren't observable. Wasn't observable. The signature verification was not observable. All of the hours that where ballots were being counted were not observable. The balance reconciliation was not observable. There was a ton not observable.
Have you been there?
I'm from there.
I've actually walked through there
I was in there too.
multiple
I
times.
was in there too.
I just took 6 gubernatorial candidates through there.
Oh, we saw that whole video too.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I sat right in there. Those are very cute little hand stitched little doodads. I wandered around with Patty Plum. I talked to Clint Curtis.
Yeah, right. How much did they not reconcile by?
How much did they not
You
reconcile?
said it didn't reconcile.
No, it was a very small number, but every county is gonna be off, and this is part of the flaw here, is that.
No, every county's off now, huge amounts. I've been already doing this already. What the clerk thinks and the Secretary of State thinks are hugely off. We're talking large percentages. He might have been off a couple from the state. Who's right, him or the state? He is right. He's the official
He
counselor.
wasn't, his numbers didn't even reconcile by his own accounts.
I have
He
them right
didn't-
here, I've been working on them
He
last
didn't
week.
even, I've got way more data than you do on Shasta County, I guarantee you.
Mhm.
I absolutely guarantee you. So
Okay.
there were,
Do you have the voter rolls?
for Shasta County, I do.
Yeah, and who voted in the election? You have name by name who voted? I do.
I do.
Okay, so then, and I reconcile to Clint. If that doesn't recognize as a state, that's my point.
So no, that's not the point. The point is that Clint's numbers don't reconcile to Clint's numbers. He has the number voted, but then he refused to show the yes and no votes because there were two questions on the ballot, right?
I know.
Okay, so the one question that was countywide, there were 60,000 some votes, 65,000 whatever. And his initial counts were off from the yes/no counts. And the reason for that he doesn't even understand, because this is the only election he's ever run in his life, is that he wasn't counting any votes that are kept from the public because of domestic violence, that are kept from the public.
Right, there are many voters that
They have
you
a-
hide that, yes, I'm aware of that.
So he doesn't understand how to do that, so he hid that from the public. So that's probably why his counts were off with his own
There's a place
reconciliation.
over here where they do the signature verification. If there's anything on any of those ballots that is identifiable, like if somebody drew a Mickey Mouse on or something like that, you can't put it under the cameras because it gives away identity.
Understood,
And-
those go through the adjudication.
And so there's an adjudication section. In that section, you don't get to see the ballots, but you do get to see the workers. And you do get to have people that are deputies, that are multiple
No,
people looking at
in-
that.
In California, what you're allowed to see is what's on the ballot, just not the names on the ballot, not the.
Any identifiable marks is what the law says.
But you can't see the person whose ballot it is, that information is not viewable, but what goes through on the adjudicator is just.
The ballots are anonymous, they don't have any names on them.
My point is that there are, adjudication is a viewable, observable opportunity.
Over here, and it is observable.
And that wasn't made observable to everyone.
No, because he has to protect the identity of some of the people. He's required by law to protect. Those go over here, and those have supervision by deputies who are deputized to do that. That can't be streamed online. Everything else can be.
So, no, it's not streamed online, but it's still viewable, so people have to be allowed to be in front of
Not
that.
online.
Not online, but
By deputies, yes.
not just by deputies. The public is allowed to see adjudication.
You're correct. There's actually chairs they can watch. They can't actually look up close at the ballot. They actually choose
They
to
can see
observe the
what's on the
process.
screens because the screens manage that in a way that.
I understand.
Okay, so that wasn't viewable to us.
He set it up that way because he was honoring the privacy of those, but they
He
were.
wasn't honoring the law.
Those are adjudicated according to the law. I know for a fact that you're wrong because the Secretary of State sent attorneys up there, and so did the Attorney General, and everything he did was signed off as legal. I've already seen the paperwork.
It was not.
The Secretary of State disagrees with you, and so does the Attorney General of California.
No, the Secretary of State signed off on his statement of vote. The rest of it's under is.
No,
under
the Secretary of State sent
investigation.
attorneys up there to examine
I was
everything.
there when they were there. I was there for the
Yeah,
whole election.
Yes.
Some of the stuff that's caused so much of the distrust in the country is like, maybe they put up a fence because there was insurrection. But that had nothing to do with the pizza boxes that were put up where
Over the
people were
windows.
watching the election in 2020.
Right.
There was a lot of things that happened. I got an opportunity in our county, and this was before it all went to the state, when it was still done by the county. We had to do a recount, and I got to be involved. I was so impressed. I mean, this was when Terry Turry was still the county clerk. And, I mean, they had like these tables. I was the watcher at my table. I'm sitting there for hours. You can't read a book. You can't look at your phone. All you're doing is watching the whole table to make sure everybody's counting and everything.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's talking about, is get us
Well,
back.
except that's that's not what happened in Shasta County.
Well, maybe
It's
they
not.
fucked up. That doesn't mean don't do it.
So
You
the
got
point
one
is,
place.
I would like you to pick your system and be completely transparent. But right now, in Coos County, there's a glass window, and that's as close as you get to your
Yep.
election.
Yep.
And your public should have access to everything. You want to restore trust? I got your hand. You want to restore trust? You need to take away that window and invite the people in to come watch the process. Right now, you don't have trust because you don't give transparent access. I just used Shasta as one example. Let's say she's correct. But I don't
I
agree,
am.
but let's say she is correct.
I am.
Okay? Why don't you do something better?
Yeah.
Okay?
Fix it.
Do something better. That's your point.
Yeah.
And before I leave the point, and then I gotta get to the gentleman's question, I've run the whole state. I've run the churn in every one of your counties, and I've run the removal in every one of your counties. The median churn for your state is 50%. That means the populations in every one of your counties is churning like 50%. That doesn't make sense to me. And the median removal rate is 15%. So I just want you to know, I've done every one of your counties. I've prepared lists. I can give them to you, and you're gonna be able to find fraud. I haven't shown you how to do that yet. I was basically walking you in,
Yeah.
but we've been having a good discussion, a lot of good discussions, and I promised the gentleman a question.
So the Shasta example that you brought up,
Yeah,
those were tabulators there,
yes,
and air gap system, and the voter rolls, and this is California?
this is Shasta County, yeah, and San Joaquin's about to do the same thing.
So the voter rolls are part of the state, right, as you've been talking about?
Yes,
And this is an example of a system done in your book, right? That where
it's close, it's transparent.
Okay, so your gripe here is about cameras on tabulators? Is that the?
My gripe
what
is,
brings
if
us
you
to
want
election?
people to trust your elections, you shouldn't put up a fence. And you shouldn't have a glass wall keeping everybody out. If you want people to trust your elections, whose election is it? It's your election, and they're telling you, you may not watch. That's the problem. We're just supposed to trust them. So then when results come out that are suspicious, then they say, sorry, you can't look at anything unless you go to court. And by the way, you can't go to court because you don't have any evidence because we locked you out and didn't give you any evidence. Okay, but I have a way around that because I have the voter rolls and I have ways of finding real fraud, which I'm doing all over your state. And that's what I'm going to be doing training tomorrow. I've got a training, is it tomorrow morning? I'm going to be training a team here how to find fraud in their election. Now I'm going to show you how to use the rolls to do that. And then when you have real fraud in your hand, now you can go to court if you wish. I don't even care. I don't want to go to court. I think it's a waste of time. You bring the actual fraud to your county leaders and you bring the actual dirty rolls to your county leaders and you say to them, gee, how much money are you spending per ballot? How would you like to save $150,000 every election? Why don't you not send ballots to all those other people that are not real voters in your rolls? Why don't you send it to the real 70%? Save all that money. If we happen to not send one to somebody, they can call in, we'll give them one. We're not trying to keep anybody out. We're being environmentally responsible since we're not creating all these a huge landfill of ballots. We're saving all that money and we're protecting the integrity of our election by not mailing ballots to people who aren't real voters. Why not do that? And then, by the way, why don't we open it up and let the public watch how everything is counted? What a great idea.
Amen.
Then it would be transparent and you might trust your elections again. But to do that, we have to do something. Because what I've learned is if I get one county to stand up, like in Shasta, it's a war. And what happens, for example, is every time Shasta County would do something to try to make their elections more secure, the Secretary of State and the local ROV would collaborate against the county, and it was like a war, constantly going on, one county against the state, one county against the state. So what I've done, and I've changed my strategy for the last 2 years, this is big, this is why I love Oregon, this is why I'm here, I'm organizing multiple counties at a time. What's going to happen is we're going to have about a dozen counties all stand up at the same time with a binder. It looks the same, laid out the same. Every binder's got 10 cases of fraud, open and shut cases, already all demonstrated, legal case numbers on them, 10 cases of illegal voting, 10 cases of dirty voter rolls, and 5 examples of illegal procedure in the elections. 12 counties all at once stand up and say, Our elections are disenfranchising us from our constitutional rights. The state is forcing us to waste money. The system that the state is imposing on us is allowing fraud into our elections. It's our obligation to defend our citizens' votes. Every ballot was paid for with blood, and every county has the same problem. Why? Because every county has fraud? No, because the state system is the problem, and all you have to do is say to the state, we're not going to use your system because guess what? It's been proven in court to be illegal. Ah, yes, sir.
I just, not a question, I just have a statement. Why wouldn't any party of any not want this?
Because keeping it central keeps the central in control.
Correct. Thank you.
And this is not a Republican Democrat issue.
No, it's not.
I'm telling you, Oregon is really corrupt, but Kentucky's worse. And Florida is a mess, okay? And everybody thinks of them as like the free state of Florida, and DeSantis, woohoo, woohoo, all big. Are you kidding? They have so much fraud there, massive amounts of fraud there that we've uncovered. But they don't want to fix it. They like it the way it is. I could tell you so many stories. Okay, I'll tell you one story.
Sure.
One story.
Sure. Let's hear it.
2022 is around the summer. The Louisiana GOP was holding its statewide GOP conference, and normally about 500 people come to their GOP conference. But it was the year that 2,000 Mules came out. Remember?
Yeah.
And so they made a big deal out of it. And they said, we're going to make the theme of our GOP this year election integrity. 12,000 people showed up. So they had to move to the Cajun Dome. Now, as it turns out, I was invited to be the keynote speaker on that night, along with their Secretary of State, Kyle Ardoin. He gets up, yay, yeah, we have the most secure election in the country. I'm president of the National Secretaries of States Association. Woohoo, we're the gold standard. That's what Kyle Ardoin says. 30 minutes, standing ovation, roaring, you know how it is in the stadium. Yay. Then I was next. And so for an hour, I described all the problems with their elections and showed the fraud that we'd already identified, the problems. Standing ovation, an hour later. So that's Friday night. Saturday, they have all the workshops. All day long, people are coming in. Dr. Frank, are you right? Who's right? You or Kyle Ardoin, Secretary of State? She must be him, he knows. Would you be willing to meet with Kyle Ardoin? Absolutely. So I spent all day Sunday with Kyle Ardoin. Spent the morning teaching him what was wrong with his elections. Lunchtime, we took a break. Thanks a lot, Dr. Frank. See, everybody thinks the Secretary of State knows stuff. They don't. They're just like climbing the ladder. It's like next they want to be lieutenant governor, and then next they want to, it's a political position. So I explained in the morning. We're having a break for lunch, and he says, Dr. Frank, thanks for teaching me this, but I'm confused. What's that? He says, I understand how it works, but in order for there to be fraud, people would have to have access to our machine. I said, yeah. He says, impossible. We have the gold standard network security in the country. I know, because I know what all the other states have, because I'm president of the Secretary of State's Association. We have the gold standard. I said, oh, really? He says, check it out. Check it out, Dr. Frank. Look at this new app I have on my phone. Right during the election, I can track every voting machine in the state.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
He actually said that to me. Okay, and so I was like, okay, I was kind of a shock. And I said, okay, I set my phone down in between us. I said, well, talking about cell phones, I call my friend who's a federally licensed white hat hacker. He's a penetration tester. He's federally licensed for this. I call my friend. So I'm sitting here with Kyle Ardoin, the Secretary of State of Louisiana. This is perfectly legal because he's authorizing this. I said, tell us about the security in Louisiana. So here, click. About 30 seconds later, my friend says, so, Secretary Ardoin, last night, the last document you were working on in your computer at your office was such and so, and he starts reading the lines of the document. So in other words, he hacked into the Secretary of State's computer in the Capitol building, and he was reading, and that only took him about 30 seconds, by the way, and he didn't know I was calling him before, so that shows you how fast he was into the Louisiana legend. And then you hear a few more clicks. He says, okay, I'm ready. He says about a minute later. He says, I'm ready. Which parish do you want to look at? Because they don't have counties, they have parishes. We could turn on the machines anywhere in the state, any one of them remotely. People think they're off because the switch is off, but if they're plugged in, the motherboard is hot.
Yeah.
We can remotely turn on and access every machine in the state. And so we were going around turning on the tabulators and changing any totals we wanted. We could change anything. We did that for about 30 minutes. Finally, caller Arduin says, I give up, you win, you're right, our elections are not secure. Now what do we do? So then Kyle Arduin and I spent 4 hours then. We downloaded all of his laws. He didn't even know his own election laws. Downloaded all of his laws, we started reading through it. We discovered that he has the authority to decertify the machines. Well, maybe you ought to decertify these machines since they're totally hacked. What do you think? Good idea. So, as it turns out, that week they were having hearings at the legislature in Louisiana on the election integrity, right? It's a big issue, right? 2,000 mules, it's a big issue. At the end of the week on Friday, he was supposed to get up and give the results of the hearing. And during that results, he was supposed to announce that he was going to decertify all the machines in Louisiana. This is a big deal. I call Mike Lindell. Mike, guess what's going to happen on Friday? Oh, looking good, I knew you would, he says. And Mike talks like that.
Yeah.
Mike flew down and testified before their legislature on Wednesday and said, we didn't want to spill the beans. He said, you guys have these unsecure machines. If you'll switch over to manual, I'll pay for the transition. That's Mike. He likes to do that.
Yeah.
We were setting Kyle Arduin up for the big Friday reveal. Friday comes along, no Kyle Arduin. We call his office. We call his home. We call his wife. No Kyle Arduin. Nobody can find him for 2 months.
Who got
What?
Nobody can find him for 2 months. The election happens the old-fashioned way with all the machines and everything. A month later, he shows up temporarily on TV to report the official results of the election in Louisiana and disappears again. About 2 months later, we caught him in front of a television camera, and somebody who was working with us was in the meeting, and it's one of those places where the press can ask questions. Somebody cornered him and said, well, Secretary Arduin, you met with Dr. Frank the day after the GOP last year, and he hacked into all your elections and showed you were unsecure, and you agreed you were going to decertify the machines. How come you didn't do it? On camera, he says, I deny this. This never happened. So we wrote a whole bunch of affidavits. I showed the hotel receipt. I showed the person who picked me up from the hotel and took me to the private meeting place, signed an affidavit, the people that brought us lunch, the hosts. We all, about a dozen affidavits. And then we met him in his office late in March 2023. Wow. And we said, Kyle, we're going to take you to court for lying to the public and for not doing your job. Next day he resigned. April 1st.
Amazing.
Okay, he would rather resign than deal with the problem. So when you say, why aren't they fixing it? I think it's more than just power. I think there's also coercion.
Yeah.
I think somebody got to that guy.
Say so.
I could tell you a dozen more stories like this, because I've been doing this all over the country, and I spent most of 2021 meeting with AGs and doing this exact sort of thing. And I thought all I had to do was show them, and then we could fix it. I was wrong. They're terrified at the top. They're controlled at the top, and they like having central controlled booths. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of money in that. There's a long answer to your question.
No.
But it's a good story, and it's a true story, and you can check out every bit of it out. Yes, sir.
Totally off the subject, are you gonna mention anything about the case that is going on right now in Douglas County? It's a
I'm
Republican
NDA'd
court.
on that.
Okay.
I'm in the case in Douglas. I'm also in the Judicial Watch case. And so I'm very familiar with what's going on in your state, and I'm happy to help, like I did in Washington, but I signed an NDA, so I'd rather not talk about it.
So how are you still alive?
The worst things that have happened to me is, remember when they took Mr. Lindell's cell phone?
Yeah.
They took mine the next day.
Oh.
And it was all connected to
Yeah,
the Tina Peters case. And so, and then when I first started doing this work, the Navy SEALs gave me security advice. And they said the best way for you to be secure is to get everything as public as you can, as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, the secret's out anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fulton County, Georgia.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a cluster.
Fannie Willis.
Yeah.
What a mess. So I've been there, and I helped out with some of it, but I got out of there as quick as I could.
Yeah.
Because there are all these, I don't know if you noticed, have you ever seen any slides like I showed? Anybody else show this stuff? I focused on data. I'm focusing on evidence. There are all this other stuff, and I'm being recorded, so I should be careful what I say. But I'm really, really seriously unhappy with the election integrity work that's gone on there. Those lawsuits were flawed from the beginning. I love what this guy's saying, how crappy the lawsuits are, because he's right. People are coming forward with evidence that it's just crap. Which is why you notice that when I'm talking about binders, these are already pre-filtered, absolutely real cases. Anybody can verify them. In fact, we're going to read them into the public record in your Coos County Commissioner meeting, and anybody can check them out. And they're going to be things like somebody died 10 years ago and they voted 3 times since, and here's the record. And here's another guy who moved to Texas and he's voting in Texas, but somehow his ballot is still being cast here. We have lots of actually demonstrable, actual evidence. And we narrowed it to 10. Originally, I was having counties collect 100 cases, but I've learned that if you report 100 cases, nobody looks. So you give them 10 beautiful cases and you read them into the public record. And if they want more, you got 10 more, give them 10 more. But at first release, we just released 10 in every county to show that this problem is everywhere. It's not just one county.
When does that meeting take place?
When is that going to happen? I'll tell you the truth. We were going to do it when the Judicial Watch lawsuit came to fruition with the counties on the west side of the Cascades. But that was right at the point we discovered that the counties east of the Cascades wanted to join in. So we put that on hold, and I'm ramping up all those counties. Think about those counties over there. There are 15 of them. 13 of them signed resolutions to secede from the state of Oregon. Okay? Those are perfect counties for the work I'm doing. Because what am I asking? I'm asking multiple counties to stand together and say to the state, your system sucks. Your system is illegal. Your system is allowing fraud into our elections. We're not going to comply anymore. We don't have to comply because they're illegal. So we're going to save money, we're going to improve election integrity, and we're going to run our own elections. Thank you very much. That's why I'm here one week every month for the next 4 months, because I'm getting all those counties informed, educated, trained. They're finding the fraud like crazy. We already have several counties on the west side of the Cascades that have already finished their binders, and many of them are already taking legal action. It's just, it's under the radar until we make it public. Wow. We've already got sheriffs involved. This is real. In other words, every case of fraud that we bring to the public is real. It's not pretend. And the sheriffs acknowledge that. Follow where I'm going? So we don't even need to go to court because we've already investigated. I mean, you know, if John Smith is dead for 10 years, I'll tell you one example. Washington County. They found a bunch of people that died in 2012. 2011, 2012. And they voted multiple times since. And then they were taken out of the voter rolls in 2023. So if you only used the most recent copy of the voter rolls, you would miss it because they've been churned out. By me taking the most recent copy and adding back in the older voter rolls, they see those people still in the rolls who were fraudulent ballots. See what I'm doing? That's why I take the most recent copy and add back in all the ones deleted. I'm giving you a complete history, at least for the last 5 years. And then there's a voter history for every one of us. And you can look them up on Zillow, you can look them up on Facebook. That's just one example. And I've already made that one public, so I didn't mind sharing it again. But I want to be careful right now because we're at war. This is fifth generation warfare. And you don't tell the enemy what you're going to do. Except in broad strokes. We are going to have a dozen counties stand up and say we're not going to comply with your stupid system anymore. Yes?
Who are we at war with? NGOs?
NGOs are the means by which the ballots are being stuffed.
Like, so like, if the 2020 election was stolen and they gave it to
If,
Democrats,
I'll accept it if.
then you would think that a Republican is in control. But then a Republican won, swept the whole system. So you would think a Democrat's in control. But how could that be if they lost the 2020? So who is the nefarious actor adding and removing roles?
Thank you for that. Let me back up to one thing you said, and then I'll answer your real question, which I appreciate. It was a good question. I have zero use for Republican and Democrat labels. Zero use. I've been all around the country. I think the Republican states are more corrupt than the Democrat ones. And I'll give you an example. In Montana last year, 2024, they had an election. They have 50 state senators. It went 32 Republican, 18 Democrat. So the state Senate was a majority Republican. The first week of their legislative session, 9 of the Republicans caucused with the Democrats. Okay? I have zero use for the labels of Republican and Democrat. There's more fraud in Florida than some of the neighboring Democrat states. I've found it with the people. It's not about red and blue. It's about whoever's in control, staying in control. So I just wanted to clarify that. I have nothing, but in fact, I love both parties. I think we should have a great, vigorous discussion, and I think we should debate the issues. I just want the election to be free and fair. Whoever wins, great.
Yeah.
The other party can work harder next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
The second part is, who are the they? Who are we at war with? I think that's a really good question. So, we're at war with ideologies that are anti-American. And let me give you an example. So all the conservative community was all excited. Hey, we reversed Roe v. Wade. Woohoo, woohoo, right? They're all excited about that. You know what? I have the numbers. Do you know that abortion has shot up dramatically since then? It's almost doubled. The rates, it's just shot up dramatically. Yeah, I have the numbers. You want me to show you? I love modeling. I love getting huge numbers of data and modeling it. Now, what's been happening is, when it was federal, and everybody was using Roe v. Wade as their precedent, once it went back to the states, now it's a state-by-state battle. And you'll notice states are having constitutional elections, state by state. In Ohio, we had issue 1, whether to make abortion a constitutional right in Ohio or not. Okay? Now, I'm fine with that. Let's have a vote. Should it be constitutional? Well, if you pull the people, it's 70-30 to not make it a constitutional a right. Okay, so they should be able to, in Ohio, not be a constitutional right. In another state, they could say, yeah, we want it constitutional here. Fine, it should be state by state. But what's happened is, huge amounts of money flows into Ohio from other interests. And huge amounts of money flows in through the NGOs for harvesting ballots, and it survived 5149. And now it's constitutional right. Did the people of Ohio decide that?
I don't know.
No, the outside interest decided that. So I think that's what we're up against in our country. There are other interests other than us. Okay, I was just in Curry.
There's foreign interests as well, a lot of foreign interests.
Okay, since you said that.
CCP probably.
Since you said that, I gotta show this. This is super important. I have to show you this. This is super important. You all notice what happened in Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
Do you know why that happened? That happened because Venezuela is where the 2016 and 2020 elections were being controlled from.
Yeah.
Trump did that vindictively. He
I think so.
he didn't do it for oil. He did it because that's where the elections were being managed from. I've got this, I promise. Here it is. Whoops, that's Bolton.
Because they were controlling the voting machines and that.
They were controlling from there, yes. And I've been in the skip rooms and seen the recordings of that, so I know that's real. This happened in June of last year. Cash Patel got up and announced that the FBI had seized 1 million fake driver's licenses and 1 million fake ballots in October of 2020, right before the 2020 election. So who were the they, in this case? China. They produced 1 million. Now I have to tell you, I've been in skip rooms around the country with federal agents. What most people forget is that in 2020, Trump was president when the election took place. The day after, he ordered the Justice Department to send out agents 3,000 agents went out in the country for months, scouring and gathering evidence. We have mountains of evidence like this. I've sat in skip rooms and seen it. Foreign interference in our elections. Foreign interference. If you have a million ballots and a million fake IDs to go with them, you can stuff an election with that. Okay? That's what that was all about. And that, by the way, is only one of at least another dozen I know of personally from direct experience, because I've had some access. What am I saying to you? Who are the bad guys? China China wants to control our elections. That's one bad guy. People who are pro-abortion want to control an election. People who want whatever agenda it is. I use pro-abortion because I used the example of issue 1. Whatever the issue is, they are influencing the outcome of our elections, not us. It's supposed to be us. I just drove up the coast from Curry. What a beautiful drive along 101. I grew up in Sonoma County, and I remember how beautiful the coast is magnificent. So you know what the county commissioner in Curry told me? He says, we're broke. They have no money.
Yep.
How can you be broke? You're in like one of the most beautiful places. This should be like tourist central, and you should have gorgeous hotels and amazing resources here.
State highway, man, on the beach.
The only way that can happen is because of bad government, okay? And bad regulation. That's the only way. And corrupt government. And so the systems become so corrupt and so non-us. We don't teach our children anymore. We don't run our governments anymore. We don't run our elections anymore. Somebody else is doing all those things. We have to start being citizens again. We have to start taking back our civic duty, start being, and we can disagree vehemently on issues, great. You can come over here on the right, I'll come in on the left, and we can argue, okay? But we need to be running our election. We need to do it. So that's what I'm arguing for, that's what I'm going on the country doing, yes.
So I always hear the election interference argument, and it's totally right on. You can go back to the time this country wasn't a country and there were people trying to interfere with our elections. But the point is America has been interfering with people's elections, other countries' elections, since we've been a country ourselves. So it's something that goes on back and forth, so.
We've been messing with other people's elections.
Yeah, we've been messing with other
100%.
people's elections. 100%. So we should learn that there are people who are doing the same things to us. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised.
We're entitled to it because we did it to them.
Right, so it's the argument that all of us should be protecting ourselves. Cover your ass and expect it because it's been happening. Past performance is indicative of current performance.
100%. So let's say that we knew Pearl Harbor was going to happen months in advance. But let's say we didn't do anything until it happened. That would be stupid.
Yeah.
If we knew Pearl Harbor was coming, we should prepare. I'm telling you now, Pearl Harbor is coming. The November 2026 election is going to be a huge debacle in our country. And I can tell you why. There's a reason why Trump did Venezuela. There's a real reason why Tulsi invaded Fulton. There's a reason why something else is about to happen somewhere else. There's a reason lots of these things are happening right now, because we are gaming up for this. In 2018, Trump wrote an executive order that said, it was his 83rd executive order that said, if you can prove foreign interference in an election, the president has the executive authority to nullify it. Biden renewed that order when he became president.
Yeah.
Trump renewed it again now that he's president. Yeah. Do you think that Trump is getting, I've already run the numbers, you know I'm a modeler, the Republicans are going to lose the midterms big time. I see it coming big time. Okay, do you think Trump's going to let that happen and him get impeached again?
No.
No way. That guy, I know him, I've had dinner with him. He wants to lie in his deathbed one day and say, I saved the country. It's very narcissistic. He wants to say, I saved the country. Nothing matters more to him than that, okay? And maybe that's a good thing.
So is that his third term?
Okay, but that's what he is. Do you think he's gonna sit by and let them take and impeach him again? Heck, no, he's gonna nullify the election. That's what's gonna happen. And then, imagine, you think you've seen riots in the streets now, wait till you see then, right? So anyway, here's his tweet from August. He said, I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. I put you guys right in the crosshairs. And also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines. This is like not a tweet, this is like an essay from this guy here. I mean, this is a long thing. I don't need to read it all. You get the point.
Yeah.
He is making it clear. Now, notice he didn't say, I'm gonna sign an executive order. He can't, because our gentleman friend here is correct. Constitutionally, he cannot do that. The states determine the manner of the elections, okay? The states are in charge. So that's why he's saying he's going to lead a movement. So I say,
Can you put that back up there?
Shoot it.
Thank you.
that's from August last year.
What's the date?
And
Oh, it's-
I gotta tell you, when I heard the 83rd executive order, I hated it. I don't want my president to have the ability to nullify an election. That's, I mean, talk about no kings. That's not as kingly as it gets. He could just tell you to pound sand. I don't care what you vote for, I'm nullifying it. That's not okay with me. We need to be the people running our elections. So I hated it when I heard that.
Yeah,
But
that's crazy.
but he has the power. And so I think we're headed for a constitutional crisis. I think the midterm is gonna be it. So we have a choice. We can either wait for it to happen to us, or we can be prepared. And I'm here to help prepare you. If you guys could already start making your elections more transparent, already start cleaning up your order rolls, start controlling them locally, and have clean elections, when the excrement hits the fan, you'll be already in position to run a good election. If you wait till then, it's gonna be purple thumbs and the troops in here. And I don't think that's what we need. I think you need to have preparation. I think you need to be prepared. So that's why I'm here. That's why I think Oregon, of all the states in the country, you are the perfect place for this, because you really aren't a blue state. You really are a red state, and you have all these counties that already want to secede.
Yep.
All I gotta do is get them organized with a few of the counties over here, which we've already got, and they'll make a stand against the state. They'll draw a line in the sand and say, we don't have to comply because you're unconstitutionally. Let me finish with this example, and then I could go on all night. I told you I could. Let's say the governor said, we had another school shooting, we're gonna take away open carry of guns in your state.
Huh.
What would you say?
Oh.
No.
Pound sand. Why can you tell that? Because it's your constitutional duty to be armed and proficient and to defend yourself against whom? The tyranny of government. And so when the government tells you, give us your guns, you say, Milan Leve, we're not, come and take them. We're not gonna give you our guns. That is our last line of defense against the tyranny of government.
Government, yes.
It's your constitutional right, it's your constitutional duty to be armed and proficient. If the government comes and says, give us your ballots, we say, here,
Yeah.
without a fight. What's wrong with you? If we can show that by giving your ballots to them, they're disenfranchising you from your constitutional rights by fraudulent votes. Every fraudulent vote is nullifying one of your real votes.
Yeah.
If we can show that, which we can, and we have already in multiple counties in your state, you don't have to comply. In fact, you're obligated to say, we will not comply. You're obligated to be armed and proficient to defend your Second Amendment. You're armed and it's your duty. It's your duty to protect your ballots. It's your duty. Anyway, I think that's a good way to think about the logic of what we're doing. We're not breaking any laws. We're not saying we're going to break the law. We're not doing an insurrection. We're simply saying your system's unconstitutional. We're not using it. That's simple.
Sounds good.
All that takes is organization, which is why I'm here. I'm here to help you get organized. And how about if I end there and thank you very much.
I think you guys just noticed that there's hats over there for helping out with the cost of this.
Thank you. I don't charge anything, so every donation is helpful.
They wouldn't notice, I'm just letting them know, the hats are there.
Thank you very much. I'm also happy to take any questions you might have. At 10 o'clock, we're doing training, right? Did you want me to invite everybody to training? Everybody, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we're gonna have a training session. Mary is beating me up on this. Where's it gonna be?
3229 Broadway, Suite F.
Where's that?
What is that?
North Bend.
What is it?
3229 Broadway, Suite F in North Bend.
Here we go.
Bring your guns.
Near McDonald's shopping center there.
10 o'clock.
Newmark Plaza.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I get so excited.
Oh, well, it's Broadway.
Mary's keeping me in line.
Yeah, there you
All right.
go. It's the whole line of buildings on,
Oh, yeah, I think I got a couple bones. I think I got a dollar bill.
We've already got multiple counties ready, and we.
Oh, you got it, do it.
Side sparked up and started. We just got to
Hey, buddy, hey, you're Rob, right? TJ was telling me about you, man. My name's Mike. Oh yeah, the Republicans thingy or something, or the Turning Point event. Yeah. One thing I want to ask, like, why do you think people have such a faith in government? Because I've always found it a blind trust. Like, people think that everybody in government is God because I think it's a kisassery event. I think it's all kisassery. I think most people climb the ladder, most of them, in government because of it. So, like, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying most of them. It feels like figured it out, like a lot of people that are in the position they got into. There's an outside conservative problem. So, like, do you think, is there any reason why people have so much faith in these people that just, you probably think, I mean, how do you reverse that to where people should be a little more, I think people are skeptical of people in government, at least to some degree. Yeah. How do you reverse that? Blind trust of people.
And it's mine. Also, the fact that it's
People either need to find God or they need to find knowledge. Number two,
because it's on an Adobe spreadsheet, Adobe, and it's not changeable. We can't make up our own because that Adobe sheet has someone to say it.
So they probably made him an actor.
That's a hell of an answer.
That's why I like Batman. His only superpower is he's rich.
Well, I have a big voice, so please. Yes, 10 o'clock, talk to Mary, and she'll meet you there.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you, man. Oh yeah, I love TJ.
Get home and have yourself a pleasure.
And I'm off tomorrow.
What grade?
All right, everybody. Oh, so that was the event. You just witnessed my boy, Dr. Douglas Frank. That was pretty educational, if you ask me. That was pretty cool, and really entertaining event. You know, and you know me. I know I have a very lack of faith in overall government. I'm so anti-big government at the end of the day. So it's like. It doesn't surprise me that there's so much fraud in the system. You know, it doesn't surprise me in any way. But you know, I think this is great. This is great, and I think that it's good to question. I think it's good to question election integrity at a massive scale. And I do think we should bring it back to the counties. Let counties count their own shit efficiently as they can. Send it to the state and have that happen. So I mean that's perfect. But hold on, let me.
And that's a necessary job because how many people don't have a pool? But we can start stacking them on these. What's a good thing for this? That's right. Jim and that's right. Also, Jim and Lynn.
Hey Doc, I got a question. So I was thinking of an interesting analogy you might be able to use somewhere. I like investing in assessment. You don't like so I thought about using the analogy like that. Yeah, because you notice how like you were saying when you go to states, 50 states, they all do it centrally.
Yes.
And accurately. So what if you use the example of index funds? Like you only have 50 companies. They're diversified, but not as diversified as you want it. You want more diversification. You're going to want a lot of companies.
Right.
So how many?
And it'll distract the market.
Exactly. How many counties are there total?
3,140.
I was thinking maybe you could use that as an analogy. I think that sometimes people, I think it that can kind of visualize.
I agree.
Especially with that level of diversification. Because like if there is an error, fundamental, right? There is, I'm gonna get this out so people can stack chairs and stuff, but if there is a fundamental issue on the state level, then that whole state, if multiple states are fraudulent, that could bring down a lot of, that could just end up having the worst type of data. So if you have everything done county by county by county, which is what I've done, and that's why when you said that, it sparked something in me. I was like, damn, because I didn't realize, I thought it was being done county by county and actually done.
No, it's not. It's being done central. Oh, now I understand your analogy. It's not diversified.
It's not diversified enough.
It's already central. You need to diversify.
Diversified enough. And then that way, if there is fraud on one county, it's just one
It doesn't matter.
county. You know, because a couple companies in my index
Right.
go bankrupt, but it isn't going to F over my
So, for example, yes, there's always going to be fraud, always. Okay, but right now, I can cheat your whole state from my basement in Ohio. Because it's centralized. And you're saying diversify, then the little bits of fraud, they don't matter anymore. Because it's a little here, a little there, doesn't matter. I get your now.
I bet if you were to use that, like almost like the index fund, I bet more people would get it, because sometimes I feel like, because even though I understand, I wonder if some people weren't connecting with it fully, and just even adding that small little bit.
I like your idea.
Consider it, because it might be something that people can relate to in an interesting way.
I like your idea. Good idea.
But hey, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents, man. I appreciate you even listening to me, man. I was just kind of taking it all in, and honestly, I thank you for letting me even live stream it, because I wanted people to really kind of take it all in too, because there are a lot of people who couldn't do it. So
I have nothing to hide.
that's why I like transparent, leave it all on the table, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, brother. Anyway, I'll let you get back to it, partner.
So why can't they do it to us? Fair enough.
is we have.
They're just getting eager.
No. I tell people all the time, we invented it.
So I was gonna say, so who was doing it to who first?
Us doing it to them first.
First, right.
Us doing it to them. We earned it.
We earned it.
I really enjoyed my last visit. I remember sitting in that restaurant together, or that hotel. And you said, I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do in Oregon. This is what we're going to do. And we were driving in, I said, oh, here we go. I remember those are some good.
Well, I do it on my computer.
We'll do that again. We'll be back.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to track actually about a week from now.
Well, you buy the paper.
Yeah, just by scheduling it, ended up being close to me.
Not too bad. It's not too bad.
It's just one-sided.
Yeah, it's one-sided.
All right, we're still live streaming just for a few more moments. I'll talk to you guys when we get outside. I'm going to put you guys in my pocket real quick. And but yeah, this is incredible. So let's see.
He needs to promote.
Amazing. Everybody, you guys were asking good questions in the chat real quick. Let's see. Well, I'll finish this up. We got 10% battery. I still got 10%
Ari's
battery.
got a lot to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
And we-
Good night, you guys.
Good seeing you.
I am so happy.
Okay. Okay, so that was a really, really cool event. Honestly, incredible. Whoa. So we'll kind of go over here a little bit. All right. Okay, so that was a really cool event. I'm not gonna lie, that was amazing. But Nate Dogg sent a happy poop. But yeah, that was an incredible event. Talking about, because here's the thing, I don't have a lot of trust in government at the end of the day, and I think the guy, he brought up a lot of interesting points, and I'm glad I was able to give him that idea about like that people need to really realize that if states are messing these counts up like this, there's a problem. And having everything too centralized, even 50 states is not enough. You know what I mean? 50 states is not enough. So you have to do it county by county. Makes perfect sense. And the data he was correlating is just very fascinating, man. And it's funny, he was very nonpartisan about it. And I love that about this guy. He just wants to know. He just wants to get to the truth, and the truth matters. So this guy is an incredible human being. I love exactly what he was doing, but he was trying to get to the bottom of the truth, and that's the coolest part about it. So very excited, very cool. But yeah, I think I may end the live stream here in just a second. In fact, I think I'm just going to go hang out over this way. So just kind of get out of people's way and stuff. But I'm going to try to find some cover just so we can end the stream here in a second. I only got 10% battery on my phone, so we'll probably... that's a good spot to chill out, I think. Yeah, we'll call this... all right, we'll call this a good spot to chill out. Okay, so, but yeah, no, overall, like, really, really amazing event. He... The best thing I could say is he drove home some of the data, but I was a little confused by some data, but that's only because of my lack of understanding. And sometimes when you have a lack of understanding, it could be a little bit difficult to really take in certain concepts at a full scale, right? So like, and that was the best part about it, was I felt like even he did answer he answered a lot of people's questions very well, and that was one of the most interesting seminar, I guess you could call it a seminar. That was really cool. I'm still taking it in, you know, and I may even rewatch the live stream just so I could kind of get a better gauge on what was presented. And but thank you very much, Nate Dogg, for the happy poop yum yum. I appreciate it. But yeah, what an event, man! What an event! I'm gonna just kind of go a little bit over this way, I guess. I ended up walking here, so I brought my umbrella. But yeah, what an event. What an event. Really cool. What's up, Orwell? So I'm gonna find a nice little area to chill. Maybe like probably I just go to this bank real quick. It's enough coverage. But yeah, I figured I would end the stream on a high note. I think what I'm gonna do, I might even just go to Seven Devils and might drink a if they're still open, that is. I think they're open until 9 or 10. Here we go. But yeah, what an event, man. What an event. Just really cool. I got to admit, I still a little bit stunned. I can't believe I was hanging out with a dude that Mike Lindell made a movie about, bro. That's fucking cool. And this dude's met Trump, man. What a stud. But really cool. Anybody from Coos Bay? Are you highway camping? No. But I think I'm going to go get myself a double IPA to celebrate. That was an amazing thing. Big shout out to everybody. I want to thank, yeah, you know, double IPAs are a little expensive, so I think IPAs in general are just expensive, and I'm too cheap for that. So I think I might probably pick myself up some cheap beer from McKay's. Top G. I'm a top G. But yeah, no, that was an incredible event. I got to give all my flowers to my boy, to the doc. What an event. And I can't believe that was free. He didn't even charge a ticket price. He didn't charge me anything. And he was so willing to let me live stream in that event. And holy crap, I got to give him his flowers, man. Yeah, Mike Lindell was one of the dudes who made a pillow. Yeah, my pillow. But stunning, man. What an event. What an event. But yeah, you guys need to follow this guy. He's on YouTube. I'll even take a picture of the paper that I received. Just unbelievable. I don't have any words. Like I said, I'm still trying to take in a lot of the information he presented. And yeah, I'm very proud to say that I went to the event. But yeah, other than that, though, I think I'm just going to head out and probably do my thing and get my ass home at least. But anybody got any questions, I guess, before we end the live stream? That was amazing. Oh, it looks like my battery's really low anyway, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to end the live stream right now. Catch you all later. Peace out. I'll see you guys. I'll probably do a live stream tonight.